Hello and welcome to WGTC Radio, the official podcast of entertainment website We Got This Covered, with your hosts, Jonathan R. Lack and Sean Chapman.
So, Jonathan, what did you think about Prometheus?
Well, let's see. You can read my review not on We Got This Covered, but at jonathanlack.com. And at the time, I think I liked it a good amount. I think I gave it a B. And I thought, there were a lot of things I liked about it, and that's my ultimate conclusion. And the complaint I've seen online about it from people who didn't like it that I don't quite understand is people just getting... The things I got hung up on are different than the things other people got hung up on. Like, a lot of people are getting hung up on why aren't we getting answers to big questions. I liked the ambiguity of it.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not. I mean, there was some good ambiguity. The setup for the ambiguity was good, but there was no follow through with the ambiguity.
No. That's what I was going to say, is that the first two acts, I feel, do ambiguity really well, and sort of just, you get to sit there and sort of ponder things, and it's a nice pace and everything.
Yeah.
And then the third act, we both agree, kind of falls off a cliff.
Completely, it's the most bizarre thing. I've never seen a movie that had such a good setup. I was loving the movie for, all the stuff they're, going in to, the big cave, or the big station or whatever. It's what are all these pot things? It's what is this, some sort of, religious place? Whatever, the murals. Everything's why do we have this alien head? Why the fuck did the alien head blow up? I don't know. It's all of that's really great. And then, all of a sudden, I've never seen this before in a movie, the movie fell apart. It was so perfectly paced, carefully plotted out. There were no... everything was chronologically synchronous from, basically once you start up on the ship. It's everything is just it's just following through with the time. It's going all through the day, then through the night, then the next day, and then all of a sudden it's you're just jumping from time. It's okay, 30 minutes have passed through this next cut, or an hour, baby. It's all these plot threads get picked up and just dropped immediately. Reveals get brought up that are stupid and pointless, and just go away. The movie, it felt like they had either an hour more of movie to put in. Although I've read interviews with Ridley Scott that kind of suggest it's not the case, where he's calling it, this is my cut of the movie.
Yes.
It's or they just decided, we did all this really good setup, and this, fuck it, I don't know where to go with this. Let's just, alien baby, we're not going to explain the head thing, space zombie, that character's father, that character's still alive, they're going in there, and then we're just going to end it kind of like it's Alien, where there's an alien monster thing that kills people. But it looks like this.
Yeah,
that was the third act of the movie. Oh, and then we're going to go to their planet to find answers. It's well, then what the fuck have we been just doing for 2.5 hours?
No,
I don't know, disembodied head.
Almost,
I don't know.
Almost everything in the last 30 minutes or so really frustrated me, because they had... Here's how I described it in my review. I don't need literal answers this is where these people came from, this is how they created humanity. Yeah. I don't want that, in fact. But what I need is a concrete emotional resolution. These characters, I want to see what was this journey worth to them. And
that's the answer to that question.
The only thing you really get out...
Almost all of them died.
Well, what I was going to say is the only place you get that, and my favorite part of the ending, is what Idris Elba goes through and does. Idris Elba is a great actor. I love that character. I loved his resolution where he decides he's going to sacrifice himself. That worked, because that's an emotional ending place for a character. Do you agree?
Yeah, although, it could have been set up a little bit better. But
yes, it could have. But, you get that. But
it was better done than most of the character resolution.
Exactly. And I liked Noomi Rapace's character, and I like Noomi Rapace, but to an extent. But
hold on, interesting side fact. This is bugging me the entire time I was watching that movie. Her character is named Dr. Liz Shaw. It's and I had heard that name somewhere. I was who is Dr. Liz Shaw? I know that. It's that was the third Doctor's first companion. It was named Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, and they called her Liz Shaw. And that was driving me insane, because I was where is that name from? So my theory is that Dr. Liz Shaw in the 70s, after working for UNIT, went into cryogenic hibernation and then came out as Noomi Rapace around the year 2090, and then went on this mission to try to actually find the Doctor, and that the Doctor is responsible for the giant monster alien human people who are actually humans, but they don't look like humans, but they do.
I like the movie a lot more through that frame.
It's once you realize that Dr. Liz Shaw is actually a Doctor Who character, it's a better movie, in my opinion.
It is. Well, what movie couldn't be improved? No. Okay. I don't quite know where to take this discussion.
Let's take it to the beginning.
Okay.
The beginning of time.
Yes.
The beginning of life. Maybe. I don't know.
We were so the first two acts. I said I liked them, and I like so much about them. I think the visuals are fantastic.
Yeah, I completely agree. I want to go on record because I'm probably going to forget and be a lot more negative about the movie. That I thought the movie was okay. I don't necessarily recommend that people don't see it. I actually would recommend you do see it because it's very controversial, and there's a chance that you would like it.
That's my recommendation.
And that the best part of the movie to me was the visuals, and then second was Michael Fassbender's character. But the visuals, it's a beautifully shot movie, and I highly recommend it. It's almost kind of like Avatar, where it's like, even if you don't like the story stuff, it literally, you can watch the movie. I mean, it's not really for repeat viewings, but you can watch it once and just look at the visuals, and you can entertain yourself that way.
Yeah,
that's basically what I did for most of the movie.
Yeah, and Sean didn't see it in 3D, which I understand because you don't need. I don't know if you need to, but I would.
I didn't even realize it was supposed to be like really, because it was actually shot in 3D and like intended that way. Yeah, I didn't even realize that. It seemed like it was totally fine. The atmosphere was totally fine in 3D.
And again, I don't think there's
need 3D.
I don't think there's any 3D movie that needs 3D.
Maybe Avatar.
Okay,
it's like I rewatched a bit of that in 2D. It's like that's not quite doing it for me.
No, but what I was going to say about the 3D, because I saw it in 3D, it's Ridley Scott obviously is a great visual director, and just for me it was you got to explore the sets and the set design a little more in depth with 3D, and I guess that's why I would recommend seeing it that way if you want to spend the extra couple of bucks. But either way you see it, visuals are great. Ridley Scott is a great visual futurist. He can make futures like in Blade Runner and the original Alien that feel authentic and really imaginative, and one of my favorite things about it was looking at the visuals and just sort of imagining how society got here.
Yeah, especially Alien and Blade Runner. I remember because I rewatched Alien and watched Aliens for the first time before I went and saw Prometheus because I wanted to make sure nothing got spoiled for me or whatever, and it had been so long since I had seen all of Alien, but I noticed the set design for Alien, and this carried through for Prometheus for the most part, was so well thought out and so well designed that it was like this really lived-in spaceship that felt like it was functional, like it felt like everything was there for a purpose. It's like it was like a really well-designed spaceship, and I just love that about like the set design for that movie and for Prometheus.
Yeah. So. And I think, Sean and I, you said your sort of ultimate take on it. You're going to get more negative, and I think I am too, but ultimately you don't think it's a bad movie.
Yeah, I don't. It's just like, it's an overwhelmingly flawed movie, but you still enjoy it while you see it, and I think you only really recognize the flaws near the end, and then after you see the movie and you think about it for a little bit, it really falls apart.
And that's what I went through because, when I reviewed it, I had to be fair and focus on everything and try to come up with a letter grade that, kind of reflected how I think people should recommend it and stuff.
Yeah.
And again, letter grades are not the important part. So if you go read my review and you think whatever, I don't even remember what I gave it, is out of line with what I'm about to talk about.
I think because I remember I read your reviews after I saw the movie because I was kind of curious. And
do you think
I think it was a B+.
Okay, yeah. But I don't put much thought into that.
Yeah,
but
it's like...
It was just like when I wrote the review and then I went back and did that, I'm like, I'll give it that. But I was conflicted, and I hope that comes across in the review. And I think it sounds like you would agree with what I wrote in there about what works and what doesn't. And I think the other thing that works, and I want to get this out of the way because this character never went wrong for me or anything, is Michael Fassbender's David.
Yeah.
Michael Fassbender is one of the best actors working today. He deserved Oscar nominations for at least 2 or 3 movies last year that he didn't get any for. He's just a great actor. If you read my work, I thought his film Shame, which was from last year, was the best film of 2011. He's a great actor, and he brings all that he does well as an actor into this, silly sci-fi movie. And to me, it's the most exciting sci-fi performance in a movie I've seen since like Rutger Hauer in Blade Runner.
Yeah, it's definitely for a modern sci-fi movie. It was really a refreshing sort of. I mean, even though it's a bit of a cliched sci-fi character, but I think it was done well.
Yeah.
And it was like there were a lot of. I mean, one of my favorite things about that character was his whole thing with Lawrence of Arabia. I thought that was really cool character element that he kind of idolizes T. Lawrence and wants to be like that, like Peter O'Toole in that movie.
And I just liked his sort of curiosity, and I liked. That was the only place where I felt the themes of the movie clicked about creators and creatorship, because he was created and he was surrounded by his creators. And one of my favorite moments in the movie is when he's talking to Liz Shaw and he says, "If you had the chance to kill your parents, wouldn't you?" And she doesn't understand what he's saying, but he has a different view on this because his view of parentship is not 2 people fucking make you.
Yeah.
It's that you are created by a divine or bigger being.
2 people fucking make you.
Yeah, no. It's that, It's that, for him, what a parent is like the god, your creator figure,
Yeah.
and that we naturally become mad at our creator figures, and that's a good theme, and I like that exploration of that. I think it falls apart at the end.
It gets underbaked because it doesn't follow through. I think ultimately Michael Fassbender's character also doesn't. There's a lot of really good setup for that character that doesn't quite follow through for the end. But there's a lot of. Like, I actually really hope they make a sequel to Prometheus. Like, some of the news sounds like they're probably going to.
Oh yeah, Ridley Scott wants to.
Yeah, because it's like there's so much built up that's like could be done really well, and I'm hoping with like a sequel that they can figure it out and build a more well constructed film in this universe.
And I guess I'll say that is my first complaint with the ending is that I've said this over and over again. I hate movies that set up sequels.
Yeah, it should not have. It was not a movie that should have had a sequel bait ending at all. Like
I don't like that.
It didn't build itself as a movie that needed a sequel either.
No.
Like for most of the movie, you thought this is good. Like kind of like Alien. It's like this seems like a self-contained story.
Yes,
and then you realize, they're really hinting at there's going to be a sequel now.
And it's just like, for me, it's like the best series are the ones where each installment feels full and three-dimensional. And I mean, obviously you have stuff like Lord of the Rings where it's different, but that's one story. They just split into three movies. That's different. And I'm not saying, like I dislike Fellowship of the Ring because it sets up two towers. That's not my point. That's a totally different instance. It's just that I don't like it when movies do sequel bait.
Because a movie has to a movie by its very nature is one standalone piece of work. It's not like a comic book. It's not like a TV show. It's not a serial. I mean, it's like kind of because like sequels are so huge now because it makes a lot more money because you can bank on the franchise. But the movies by their own nature, kind of like a novel, need to be its own self-contained story.
Yes.
And that it can have sequels, but each installment is its own thing. If you're not going to do that, make like a TV show miniseries on HBO or something like that.
Right. And that goes back to my first complaint I was talking about emotional resolution, is to me, the way the movie ends with its sequel bait ending of them going off into space, that's them copping out and saying, we don't know what to do with Liz Shaw and David right now. We'll figure it out in the next movie. And I don't like that because those are the two best... Those are the two best characters in the movie, and I don't get any resolution on them. What did they learn from this experience? That's what I want to know. And David
learned to be more careful around giant albino aliens, and Liz Shaw learned not to fuck people right after they get infected.
Yes,
this is very important safety issues they learned about.
Yes, but those are sort of surfacey things. They didn't.
Also, Liz Shaw, she learned about her superpower to have intensive abdominal surgery, get her stomach stapled, and then just, be perfectly fine. She's like fucking Wolverine.
Why? Wait, okay, so she gets her stomach stapled, all this, she's been through this horrific experience, and I'll talk about that scene later, because I really loved it. I thought it was just, if you take it on its own, it's a well done...
Yeah, it is a well done scene. It is, a really good idea for, a horror scene.
Yes, but she stumbles out, she goes into the room where they've got Wayland and everybody, and no one lifts a finger!
It just, that moment just disappears. It's that's the whole thing with, the last act of the movie. It's plot moments happen, and then... poof! They're gone.
Yes.
Nobody recognizes they happened, and it's just you move on to the next set piece.
It's
really bizarre.
No one asks, Elizabeth, why are you covered in blood? Elizabeth, why is your stomach open? Elizabeth, what's with that giant fucking alien fetus in the...
Yeah, it's do you want to tell other people that you just cut open your stomach and gave birth to an alien monstrosity?
And here's another problem. I don't like that this is an Alien prequel. The things that make this strong have...
It barely was.
Yeah. And it's just all the stuff that they do to set it up with Alien is time that could be better spent on other things, because it ultimately doesn't have anything to do with this movie.
Yeah, it really...
And if they were going to tie it into a universe, this should have been the Blade Runner universe. Because David could just be a replicant, and it would feel much more natural in that universe.
Maybe. I mean, doing all the stuff with the biological alien weapons, I think would have felt a little out of place with Blade Runner. At least because that movie's so human centric.
Right, but not that. I'm not saying you have to you have to show Rick Deckard and stuff. I'm just saying you could show the year and have Tyrell Core on a wall somewhere. That's all.
It's it's kind of interesting because I almost have a different opinion where it's I'm fine with it being a prequel to Alien because it's just kind of set in the same universe, but it doesn't. Other than the very end, it doesn't really have any direct ties to Alien, and even then, how the ending really does tie to Alien is really ambiguous. What I think is really bizarre is that they had all the pieces, literally every single piece in place to set up the very, very beginning of Alien, where they go and they find the ship with the alien eggs in it. They had every single piece to set it up, and they didn't. which is really fucking weird. And I thought they did, and I thought there was a huge plot hole where the engineer guy doesn't go into the ship to be where he is at the beginning of Alien. And then I looked it up and I realized, oh, I made a mistake. This takes place on LV-223. Alien takes place on LV-426. Silly me. I just assumed that since you have the same fucking spaceship, the same fucking aliens, and the fucking, like, the origin of the actual xenomorph aliens, and that the shit crash lands on the fucking planet, and that the planet looks basically like the same planet, that it would be the fucking setup for Alien, since it's a prequel. But no! It's like they decided, shit, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to end this movie. We don't want it to be a direct prequel. We want to have some sequels. It's like, let's just... And we don't know how to get this alien guy back into the seat that he is in the beginning of Alien. So let's just... Okay, let's change this to a 2, and this to a 3. LV-223, different planet, we're done. Fine. Not a direct prequel to Alien. It was so weird that they didn't.
I agree, and it's... I just don't... Ridley Scott has said in interviews he wants to do a trilogy of Prometheus, and then at the end of 3, that's when it'll set up Alien. But the focus is like, why?
Dude, you could have set up Alien in that movie and still had a sequel. It's like, and that would have been cool if you just set up the scenario at the very beginning of Alien. That's all the tie-in it needed, and that would have just been a cool, because it wouldn't detract from the movie at all. It would seem completely natural, because it's just that's how the plot would have happened. And then it's just like a cool little thing for people who are fans of Alien. It's like, oh, that's how that ship got here. That's interesting. That little piece of story is filled in. That's cool.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know.
But I think we need to have a bit more structure to this discussion. So I want to take it, like you said. I want to go back to the beginning of time, the beginning of life, the beginning of the movie, which begins on some place, and you see the albino guy decides to drink some liquid, and he disintegrates. And this is actually my favorite part of the movie, where I feel it does ambiguity right.
I agree.
Where it melts the guy. And you see, it zooms in, and you see kind of like, it almost looks like the Spider-Man, like, credits or whatever. It's like, it's got, like, the DNA strands, and they sort of, like, dissolve, and then it sort of zooms out, and then you see cellular mitosis, where the cells are splitting.
Yeah.
And that's good ambiguity. It's kind of reminding, a lot of people are comparing the movie to 2001, which I think is a big mistake. Yeah. It's not, other than the very beginning, it's not like it at all. But that's sort of the same visual elements that 2001 used, where it's got, you need to have a little bit of background in science to understand this what's happening. It's like, I don't know if it really makes sense scientifically, but the DNA is reconstructing and reconfiguring into a different life form and splitting, and life begins from this guy. And it's like, it's completely told visually. There's no dialogue in that scene. It's shot really well.
Good music.
Yeah, and you just need a little cursory knowledge of biological science to kind of get what's going on. That's great. The problem is that that's not really... my impression was that was going to be... that the movie was going to come back to that scene, because that's how a lot of that kind of thing is structured, and I didn't realize that was supposed to take place like millions of years in the past until like after the movie, and I was thinking about it. But it seemed really weird that it never really came back to that moment, and what it fucks up in terms of the movie, in my opinion, is that you don't know if that black goo is the same black goo that's on LV-223 that turns stuff into alien monsters through some way. This is the biggest problem, in my opinion, with the movie, and that one of the things that Alien did well is that Alien established what the rules were, like the alien has acid blood, it established the reproduction cycle of the alien, and it stuck to it, and that's how Alien and Aliens worked. And it made sense. It established its own internal continuity, and it stuck to it. The problem with Prometheus is you have no idea whatsoever about how the black goo really works, because none of the scientists decide to investigate it at all. And it would have been fine if it was just the sort of like a weaponized mutagen or something that aggressively evolved the worms into snake penis monsters and whatever, and made stuff into alien monsters. That's fine. This ambiguous is I don't know how the fuck it does that, but whatever. But at the beginning, it kills the guy and restructures his DNA into new life, and it never functions like that again. And you have no explanation if it's different stuff. If it is different stuff, it should have looked like different stuff, because it looked the same. And it throws this huge wrench that everyone who tries to explain Prometheus on the internet, which is one of the funniest things to me about Prometheus, is people who with their grand theories about how Prometheus is secretly the most
grand unified Prometheus theories.
It's like Prometheus is really the most brilliant movie you've ever seen. You're just too stupid to understand it. I'm going to deconstruct it for you here, and think it's just no. I have not seen a sufficient explanation for why it works like that. The only plausible one was that the black goo was psychic and knew the intentions of the people using it and was feeding off of emotions, and that the engineer was willingly sacrificing himself at the beginning. Problem I have with that is that that's a fantasy element. That's not sci-fi. That's not established anywhere in the Alien universe. There's no psychic telepathic alien goo. And that breaks the hard sci-fi sort of universe that Alien has. And it's not established well at all in the context of the movie, if that's what it is.
And it's not consistent.
Yeah.
Because what does that... What is the...
why do the worms turn into giant alien penis monsters? It's like...
If it's the telepathic thing of what they're thinking, then why does Shaw become pregnant with the baby? Well, I know she's thinking about having a baby, but why does... Why does
squid alien facehugger?
Why does her boyfriend who's infected with it get sick and die? Was he telepathically thinking, I want to die?
It's like the black goo never operates in any sort of like consistent sense, so you never get a feeling for how it really works in the movie.
Okay, so let me say on this opening, I think I agree with you 100% on this. What I will say a little differently is that I like, again, that they left that scene alone and didn't come back to the scene itself.
I think it's fine that they didn't do that, but it's like they needed to pick up a little bit on it. Yeah.
Right, they needed... I completely agree that it throws a wrench in there where the black goo is... you don't know anything about it, how it works. You do need that piece of the puzzle so you can interpret it yourself. Yeah. And you can't do that with this. But I do like thematically that you have that scene and you can keep going back to it as you watch. Like, I kept thinking of it in all the scenes with David and when he's talking about creators, because I think it's about... That's sort of a creation thing, and sort of thinking about how it happens and how it could have... I was actually thinking in that scene that it was an accident, that this guy didn't mean to willingly do it. That was my interpretation, and that's the whole point, is that he created us, humanity, as an accident and then wanted to get rid of us. And that's what I opened my review with, because I thought that was kind of a fascinating idea.
I don't think that's in the movie at all. I didn't get any of that. I don't think that's...
But my point, I think I even say this in the review, they don't follow up on it.
Yeah, so it's like you can't... That's one of the things. It's like you can come up with theories, but it's like the movie. Yeah. All the theories you come up with, the movie doesn't do anything.
It's not my fault that the theory doesn't work. It's the movie's, right? And where I get that theory from, though, is that they do there's the whole movie is about how the engineers decided to kill humanity.
Yeah, which is another point of ambiguity that shouldn't have been so ambiguous.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I had that theory, is that if maybe he did it he thought the black goo would do something else. That's reading in the scene, but it's like you have to read into it.
Yeah, it's like, and I fucked up with that scene because I had no reason to really it's like I was just kind of constructing in my head that I had really no reason to do this because it didn't like really hint at it that much, but that they were going to cover that was going to be the ending of the movie, and that one of like the main characters was going to turn into albino like Ubermensch guy and then die. And so it's like I had a perspective that I thought that it was going to end up going back to that until they found that that's what the aliens looks like.
Is that the movie's problem, that neither of us understand each other's theory? You know,
I think so. Yeah, it's like it's just part of the problem with starting a movie with a scene that has no context but has significant importance to the rest of the movie that you don't really realize. Like, you don't know what that scene's trying to do. And it's like, it is part of the problem I have with a lot of movies, especially very imaginative sci-fi movies like this, is that if you leave enough up to, like, the audience's imagination, I'm going to come up with a better movie. It's like, and my idea for that movie, where they were going to, like, one of the characters was going to turn into basically, I thought it would be like the Ubermensch, like a superhuman. And that's because that guy's like a huge albino muscly dude. It looks like the kind of like the pinnacle of like what a human could be. And then so I thought, and then like maybe he has to sacrifice himself. It's like, that seems like a really cool story beat. I wonder if it's going to follow up on that. It's like, no.
Well, what I thought might happen is that before she actually had the baby, I thought maybe that's what...
Yeah, the baby, I kind of thought of that too, that it would end up being something like that.
And that would have been really interesting to me, because then that guy, her boyfriend, would have died for something, and then this series of emotional steps would mean something. But yeah. Okay, so
let's move on. We've just constructed the opening scene enough, I think.
Yeah. So the second scene is they're looking for archaeological symbols. Do you have
the Isle of Skye in Scotland.
Yes. Do you think it's a bit of a leap for scientists to spend $1 trillion, and I know there's inflation and $1 trillion isn't... I don't give a fuck. It's still $1 trillion.
Place in like 2098 or like 2092.
Seriously,
it's not that far ahead in the future.
Seriously, someone got into an argument with me about that. That's not a big sum of money because inflation. Fuck you, internet. It's $1 trillion fucking dollars. You can't even comprehend.
It's like inflation to reach like where like $1 trillion would be equivalent to like, I mean, even like $1 billion would be pretty significant for like one company to do. But like, let's say you were taking $1 trillion down to $1 billion, and that's what it was equivalent to in inflation. That would be insane. $1 trillion is 1,000 times bigger than $1 billion.
Yes.
That is a lot more than a billion, a trillion. That inflation, that's insane.
Yeah.
There's no way.
It's one corporation.
It'd be biggest 100,000 times inflation.
What's the most successful corporation in the U.S.?
No, hold on. If $1 billion was equivalent to $1 trillion, that would mean $1,000 would be equivalent to $1 in our time. If you were making that. That's fucking insane. There is no way.
That's worse than like the yen or the peso.
That's insane. That's like our money would be completely worthless. You wouldn't be using the dollar if $1,000 was worth $1 like 100 years ago.
Yes,
that's insane.
My point here is that again, like biggest company in the U.S. is Apple Computers. They don't have $1 trillion to throw away.
That's like U.S. government money, man.
Yes,
and that would destroy our government if we did $1 trillion for one fucking thing.
Yeah. Oh my god. Anyway, my point here though is, do you think, Sean, it's a bit of a leap to spend $1 trillion in private money to go on an expedition based on a couple of cave paintings that is not in any way a definitive scientific...
Yeah. It's just like, and this is like the thing that got me this, like, another thing that's like, was, like, the biggest plot hole to me in the movie was the fucking, with the cave paintings. Like, one, I don't know enough about, like, astronomy, and I didn't quite catch what they were talking about when they said, like, they used the 5 circles to pinpoint a single solar system, and from that solar system, a single moon with a near-Earth atmosphere.
That sounded like technobabble to me.
Yeah, like, that sounded like a whole lot of bullshit to me.
Yeah.
I don't think, I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe it's, like, a very specific, like, there's... but it's like there's so many fucking stars that could have been anywhere in the galaxy could have had that configuration from Earth, and it's like, and I just took like on my last semester in college, I took an astronomy class where we were learning about various things, and there's one we sent the satellite called Voyager that has a map to Earth on it using things called pulsars, which are rotating stars that you can only see from a certain spot. Like a pulsar will only shine for you, so you can use that as a map. There are actual ways to make very accurate maps. That is an actual way we decided to make a map to Earth that could lead anyone in the galaxy with any sort of knowledge of like pulsars and their positions to Earth. You could have done that. You could have done... It's like there are actual explanations and they decided not to have one.
I know.
And it's like, well, it always disappoints me in sci-fi, but it's like, okay, technobabble set up, whatever. You need to have...
I know.
It's a star map. The thing is, Liz Shaw makes this unbelievable, insane leap of intuition that this image of, it's like, okay, yes, you found it in all these different civilizations that had no contact, an image of all these people worshipping one really huge fucking dude pointing to a configuration of 5 circles. It's like, okay, I can understand you could draw the conclusion that that's an alien of some kind, that's another visitor. That's a reasonable analysis of what that image could indicate, and that he's pointing to the stars, and that's a map to their home. I'm actually following this, like, that's fair. That's actually kind of an interesting idea. Granted, the map seems like mostly bullshit, but whatever.
Good job, Liz.
Yeah.
But now...
However, you come to this conclusion with no evidence whatsoever that the alien figure has somehow created humanity like God, and that he wants you to go find him to find answers to creation, and that's why he's pointing to the 5 circles. What in the flying fuck about that image tells you that those people created humanity? It's like, there is nothing. There is nothing. And better yet, later on, when the actual scientists, I mean, I use actual scientists in quotations, they bring this up on the ship when they find out that they're going on this super bullshit mission out of nowhere. They're like, how do you know that they created us? And then fucking Liz Shaw says, it's what I choose to believe. It's like, what kind of fucking psychopathic maniac are you that you just choose to believe that this image is of an alien that created mankind? It's like, you're a Christian. That's a huge part of her character. That she has a Christian cross with her. That her father gave her, and that she's apparently supposed to be Christian. She never does, like, it never really comes off as, like, what kind of, like, is she Catholic, is she Protestant, like, what is Christianity like 100 years in the future? How does this work into her character? It's like, she just kind of carries around a cross and believes that aliens created humanity, which is completely contradictory to Christian faith.
Okay, so I know not every, Christian is like a terrible right-wing, maniac and all this stuff, but I don't see how, if you believe in a God that created us through intelligent design, that somehow makes you believe that aliens created us. Like, how do those two things mesh? You're a Christian? Where does Jesus fit into that?
Jesus was an alien.
Jesus was an alien.
Jesus was an alien.
And they keep implying that she believes she's on this mission because of her faith, not in spite of it. Why?
It's like we don't have any grasp of what her faith really is or why she believes that these aliens created them. And it's actually interesting. There's an actual, like, I mean, it's culty, but there's an actual religion that believes that aliens created mankind. I think it's called, like, realism. It's like ancient astronaut type stuff, where it's like aliens. There's all this stuff about, like, how people believe that Moses was talked to by an alien and that was the burning bush and all this stuff. If you watch History Channel long enough, you'll come across a program that talks about it. And it's actually an interesting thing, and it's an interesting idea that, I mean, lots of sci-fi has picked up on that. Prometheus is nothing new in terms of sci-fi, but it was going in interesting directions. But it's like, you have to have, if that's going to be the plot for your movie, you can come up with ways that the characters can figure that out and decide, let's say, I mean, if there was actual evidence that was an image of an alien species that manufactured mankind, okay, $1 trillion mission to go find them? I'm fucking behind that. Like, that's a huge, significant development.
Yes.
But no, it's a fucking cave painting pointing to a big dude pointing at circles. There's literally nothing about that indicates that that's what that is actually depicting.
And
it's like the biggest fucking plot hole because the whole plot has no actual reason to start. There's no reason for them to actually go.
And here's the thing. It's a problem I could forgive if it weren't for the religion angle with the character. Because that, like, I don't know what her motivation is. Like, I can overlook a big plot hole if it gets us to a good character moment or something.
Yeah.
And it doesn't with that because they don't... It's like there's this cursory mention of her religion, but it always seems contradictory. And I'll say this. We're both mad about this, but I think we can agree it wasn't, like, bothering us to this degree at that point in the movie.
It's only after you have a full perspective of the movie that you realize how big of a plot
I was enjoying the film. I was enjoying the film just fine at this point. But it is a plot hole. And I do remember raising an eyebrow, sort of being like, what? When she said...
Yeah, it's like... And I had just kind of like, oh, that's kind of bullshit. But it's like... But it was a thing where it's like, if the rest of the movie is good enough, it's like, I mean, it would be... I mean, yeah, it's a nip, like it's a plot hole or whatever. Yeah. But if it didn't detract from the rest of the movie, if the rest of the movie was good and engaging, intense, and had some interesting things to say, it wouldn't be that big of an issue. It's like it would be a problem with the movie, but it wouldn't really detract from the movie.
No.
But it just like once the movie falls apart, it opens itself to all these plot holes and all these questions, and you're almost forced to nitpick the movie to death because it's like once it falls apart, the movie makes you realize all the stupid things that happened in the movie. And you're like, well, that was fucking stupid, and that was fucking stupid, and that was fucking stupid, and this whole movie was fucking stupid, and I was enjoying myself, and I kind of feel stupid for enjoying it, even though I enjoyed it.
Right. Well, hindsight is 20/20, you know. But that's the thing about, again, going back to the religion angle, is that I could forgive all that and those plot holes at the beginning and the question about that if, like, let's say she gets to the alien at the end of the movie, the big, like, albino guy that they want to talk to, and she asks, she, like, takes her cross off, and if she were to ask, is this real? And, like, a moment like that where she finds the creator so she can ask, was I believing in something good? And if they had set up better that thing with her father...
Yeah.
Where, like...
Other than, like, that one little dream scene and then, like, it's mentioned once.
Well, like, what if her whole character arc was that she loved her father and she was religious because of this, but she still had questions, like something had happened to her or her family where she had to doubt her faith. Mm-hmm. And she's on this mission because she wants to know if she can believe in this or not. Like, she needs proof.
Yeah.
And she, like, gets to that moment with the creator and she's able to ask it. That would be powerful and that would redeem a lot of...
That would be interesting if, like, that faith versus science had culminated in something.
Instead, at the end, she just kind of stands there and watches as shit goes down and is completely... you can take her out of the last 30 minutes. She does nothing.
Yeah, she really does. Like, she just runs away and lets other stuff happen while she runs away. So then, anyways...
Okay, do we want to talk at this point about how the scientists in quotes act when they get to the planet, or do we want to talk about characters?
I want to talk about it just a little bit because it just made me realize that the scene where they have the hologram of Peter Wayland, and why did they?
I don't know.
Get Guy Pearce, Guy Pearce is like what in his 40s, maybe like
he's not
early
old.
50s.
He's not. No, he's
not that old.
Let's look this up.
Yeah, I mean he's not. I mean he's definitely not old. He's not like Ian McKellen, who's He's not.
He's 44.
He's 44.
Why did they get... There are so many great old actors who could play that part without makeup or anything. And they get Guy Pearce, and it's a terrible performance, because what can you do under those prosthetics?
It's like, I mean, it would... Yeah, it's like, they get a 44-year-old, very good-looking, just like middle-aged man who's not that old, and they get him to play a character who looks like he's about, 120. He kind of looks like if in Doctor Who, when the 10th Doctor, like, he's fighting the Master and he gets shrunk down, or he gets turned into, like, old 10th Doctor. It's like, it kind of looks like that. It's like that, which you can excuse that because it's a TV
It's a plot,
show.
and it's a plot
Yeah, and it's
thing.
part of the plot element. And it's like, and it's not just David Tennant is like is wearing that makeup the entire time. That's how old the character is. It's like you have the 44-year-old Guy Pearce playing like probably 120-year-old dude who is literally about to die any second now. Like, that's part of the plot, is when he comes back as a character. He is going to drop dead any minute now. Like, he knows that. That's how fucking old he is. Which doesn't make any sense because, I mean, this is another thing. It's like, I was like, maybe you can build fucking robots. Why don't you just turn yourself into a fucking robot? Because you can make robots. It's a robot. You can make yourself a robot because you can make robots. But, so you see Guy Pearce, 44-year-old Guy Pearce, playing 120-year-old, about to die Relic in the worst fucking old person makeup I have seen in a movie that looked so beautiful. It's just like, it was just incredible. It's like, dude, and it's like, it would have been fine if, because it seemed like they were really setting up, okay, Guy Pearce, old Guy Pearce, Wayland, is going to go to the engineer dude, and then something, or he's going to, like, find something, and he's going to
become young.
Yeah, turn into normal 44-year-old Guy Pearce, and he's going to be young Wayland.
I can understand
that. Yeah, that would have been fine. I mean, yeah, the makeup was bad, but it makes sense why he was in makeup, and he's only in makeup for a little bit. In the rest of the movie, he's normal Guy Pearce. That never fucking happens. He dies, he gets killed, and it's like, why the fuck did you do that? Like, why the fuck would you get a 44-year-old man to play a 120-year-old man for the entire movie when you could just get a person who's
Ed
old?
Asner. Get Ed fucking Asner. He's probably in a wheelchair anyway. He is, like, in his 90s, right?
Yeah.
Or Mickey Rooney. Or, I can go on and on.
It's like,
There's so many.
Like you don't have to pick the 44-year-old dude.
What's
it
the
makes
name?
no fucking sense.
Yeah, and it just...
I mean, it would be like if in Lord of the Rings they had Viggo Mortensen in makeup as Gandalf instead of Ian McKellen as Gandalf. It would have made as much sense, and he's just like that for the entire fucking movie. It's like, why the fuck did you do this?
Christopher Lee. I think how much better this movie would be with Christopher
that would be
Lee.
Awesome.
Oh.
I mean, I would never buy that Christopher Lee was about to die because I'm pretty sure Christopher Lee's immortal.
Yes.
But seriously, it's like, why would you do that? It's the most bizarre choice I've seen in a movie in so long. It's like, it really felt like they had this idea for the character, and they like tried to get Guy Pearce as soon as they could because they really wanted Guy Pearce.
Which, he's a good actor.
Yeah, which makes sense. It's like they really wanted him for the part, but they hadn't quite finished the script yet and didn't quite know where they were going, and then they ended up doing like a rewrite where they didn't end up where you had young Guy Pearce at the end. And they're like, well, fuck, we can't back out of this contract.
Now, here's the thing. Did you even know that was Guy Pearce?
I didn't. I had to wait until the credits, and it said Guy
did.
Pearce as Wayland. I was like, because it's had Guy Pearce at the beginning of the opening credits, so I was waiting for Guy Pearce to pop up. And
I did too, and I was waiting the whole movie because he was, I believe, second build behind Noomi Rapace.
Yeah, he was like at the very beginning of the opening credits.
And so I was waiting the whole movie, never saw him. I was like, and I didn't know that was a young guy, and it was just like, that's a really bad performance. It's bad makeup.
No, I was just like, that's terrible makeup. I didn't realize that it was someone who was like in
and
their
then
40s.
when I saw Guy Pearce's name in the credits next to Wayland, I got mad. I got like mad.
It's just such a bizarre decision to make. I can't understand why they decided to do that, because there literally is no reason to do that.
And the character just annoyed me, and it was sort of like, here's the thing, again, talking about anger and hindsight and stuff. In his first scene where he's just the hologram talking to them, I'm like, oh, that's bad makeup, and it's kind of a stilted performance, but he'll only be in this one scene.
Yeah, I thought it was like, it's just sort of like setting it up. It's like, whatever. It's not going to be a big deal for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. And then, of course, when he comes back, which just doesn't really serve the movie in any way, and I don't know why they decided to make it a revelation. Like, what does Wayland gain by being a secret?
They make it a revelation, but they don't, because it happens, and everyone's like, and then it's like, boop, okay, he's here now. Yeah. We're not going to react to that. No, but we can get to
did Idris Elba ever be like, what the fuck? You were carrying someone without my knowledge? Like,
and it's like, and you were pretty sure you died. You told us in the hologram that you were going to die. Yeah. It's like, why did you even need to be a secret in the first place?
But no, they don't do that. It's so stupid. It's like, but yeah, why couldn't he say in the hologram, I'm in the back room, please don't disrupt me, I want to be on the scene.
It's like, I want to go have a chance to talk to them in my last days of life, so I put myself in cryogenic freeze.
That would inspire the crew.
There's no reason. That's like another huge plot hole. There's literally no reason for Wayland to suddenly decide he wants to be a villain.
I know.
He didn't need to be a fucking villain, and he kind of wasn't, because he really wasn't doing anything bad.
No.
I mean, maybe he ordered David to do some bad stuff. That's left completely ambiguous, so you don't know.
Yeah.
But it's like,
no,
Jesus.
Fuck, God, and it's just, Yeah, it's one of those things where I can't understand why he kept, like, and I know that's kind of a nitpick, but it kind of isn't.
Yeah, it's just because it's such a stupid thing to do in a
Yeah.
movie, and you can't. I don't know why they did it. It bugs me that they did that.
Bugs
It's
me
like
too.
It's kind of like how like other people are like drawing like a lot of stuff from this movie that really isn't there, like a lot of deep philosophy and stuff. It's like there has got to be a reason. There's got to be some reason why Guy Pearce is in there, and I don't think there is. It's like I can't. That would be some really bizarre sort of like philosophical reference if there's some reason that Guy Pearce is in old makeup for the entire movie.
So the other revelation that doesn't need to be a revelation and makes no sense is that Charlize Theron is Waylon's daughter, or
that fucking scene. That cracked me up so much because I knew what was going to happen. It's like I kind of figured it out. It's like how they were acting. I thought they were just going to leave it ambiguous. I thought that it's like they were going to just imply, because you could tell, Charlize Theron's a good actor, Guy Pearce is a good actor in like a really bizarre role that he didn't need to be in, so it really hurt his performance. And Charlize Theron was pretty hammy for most of the movie, but I could kind of excuse that.
She's not her fault.
Yeah, her character was just really weird.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's like they have this conversation. And it's just sort of like kind of implied. It's like, oh, okay, Charlize Theron is his daughter. It's like maybe that gives some character reason for her to be here. And then they do this super cheesy thing where she's like, yes. And she looks up, father.
I know.
It's like, well, there you just ruined the sort of the good ambiguity in this moment. Character ambiguity.
And then it never comes back.
Yeah, it's like there was no reason for it. It's like, yes, father. It's like, why would you... It's like they treat it like it was this huge deal. It was this big revelation when it had... It spoke a little bit to some of the stuff she did with her character. Kind of. But her character was mostly useless, so it didn't read into anything.
Before we started this, you told me your theory about Charlize Theron's character. What was it?
Was it she was a man?
Yes.
Yes, well, okay, so...
My whole hang-up on the character...
is that she's useless.
Yes, and that...
She literally had no reason.
No
plot significance to Charlize Theron, except for she kills a person, but it doesn't need to be Charlize Theron.
No, and you and I agreed before we started talking about this that you and I are the only people we know who are pointing that out.
Nobody, because there's so much discussion online about this movie, which is prompting me to talk to Jonathan about it, is that it's like nobody brings up the fact that Charlize Theron's character was completely useless.
And I know it's masked a little bit that Charlize Theron is a good actress and she brings weight to the role. That's true, but that doesn't... You still have to look at her narrative function.
And there's so many weird little ambiguities around her character that don't need to be there and don't amount to anything. Like, is she an android or is she isn't? And it kind of basically says that she isn't, which then makes it seem like, then why the fuck does she act like an android all the goddamn time? Is she a sociopath? I thought she was going to be a serial killer or something.
That would have been interesting.
This is because she literally had no emotion for most of the movie.
We know Charlize Theron has an affinity for serial killers. Yeah. And she's more robotic than David, but why did you think she had a dick?
Well, okay, because they have this whole thing, and they set... This whole part of the movie is weird, because they set up... They do this thing where it's like, it's normal sort of movie screenwriting stuff. Like, Alien and Aliens did this beautifully all the time. Where you used to have the little, side thing where you set up something at the beginning. Like in Aliens, they do this thing where they set up that Ripley can drive a mech. And then they bring the mech in at the end and she fights an alien with it. It's like, that's good. That's good screenwriting. It gives context to the scene. You understand what's going on. It's like, we were talking about Spider-Man. It's like, we had a Spider-Man podcast talking about how you have a scene where there's a small fight between the hero and the villain. And then there's the big fight at the end, and the small scene sets up what's going to happen in the big fight and gives you context for that scene. So they do this in Prometheus. They have this thing where they go on to Charlize Theron has this super souped out life shuttle thing that she can live for 2 years that she decides not to use. She decides to take her planet in life pod when she needs a life shuttle. But she has this shuttle that's attached to the ship that has a grand piano. It's got a fucking bar that's stocked full of alcohol and shit. And she's got this holographic wall. And it's she could survive. It has its own atmosphere. She could survive on it for 2 years. It's she has her own life shuttle. She says, I want to be prepared for everything. And she has this little super medical pod thing. That's she says, you can get into it. And they specifically say it can perform bypass surgery, is what they say. And so it's okay, you have this surgical pod that can perform surgery on someone. It's okay, set up. It's when you're watching the movie, if you're a tentative observer, it's that medical pod is going to come up. Someone is going to need to use it.
Exactly.
Come, an hour later into the movie, Liz Shaw has found herself impregnated with an alien monstrosity that she doesn't want to be impregnated with.
As happens.
Yeah. And so she decides she's going to beat up 2 people that never appear in the rest of the movie who are going to put her into cryogenic freezing, but she doesn't want to go, so she beats them up. That never comes up again, that she just, knocked out 2 people of the crew. And it's like one of them was kind of a main character. She's like the other female scientist. And then she goes, runs down the hall. She's like, I need to get this thing out of me. She runs into the life shuttle. Conveniently, nobody's in there. She runs up to the medical pod. She's like, I need to get this thing out of me. It's like, give me a cesarean. And then the pod's like, I cannot do that. It's like, I'm afraid I can't do that in this shop. It's like, I am only programmed to operate on male anatomy. It's like, well, why the fuck would you... It's like, there are so many questions here. One, if you're only programmed... So it's like, one, why would a super advanced futuristic med pod not be able to perform surgery on both male and female patients?
There's basically two differences in our anatomy. The genitals and the ovaries. That's it.
And it's like there are a few different sex organs, and it's like something like, you have wider hip bones. It's like, it's not a huge deal. It's like, and it seems like you've got this super advanced space med pod thing. Can't you just get some software, like program it to have both like a male and female mode?
Like, if you have a lack of space, did you only buy the 1 terabyte hard drive? You can't get 2? And
then the other question is, okay, so this is on Charlize Theron's life pod that she has, so she can be prepared for everything. She wants to not be the idiot in the horror movie that just goes in blind and gets killed by everything. It's like, fair enough. That's smart of you, Charlize Theron. You prepared for this situation. I mean, it's not... If you had been impregnated, you would have been prepared for this situation. Except for, your med pod is only designed for men. Which leads me to see... There are 3 possibilities. 1, the med pod is designed for Wayland. That's fucking stupid, because Wayland's about to die. The med pod couldn't do anything for him regardless.
Exactly.
And why would she have it on her own, like, special ship, whatever? Like,
why isn't it back with Wayland?
Yeah, it's like, there's no reason to have this. So it's stupid anyways, but it's like, okay, that's kind of cute. She loves her father. She made the med pod. Whatever, even though she never, like, hints at that any later in the movie. It's like, other possibility, she is a fucking moron and never decided to turn on the goddamn thing and check to see if maybe she had bought the male-only surgical med space pod that only 12... This is another part. They said there were only, say a dozen or so of the things ever made because they're super advanced, super expensive. It's like you have a dozen... You only have, like, a limited number of these, and there's, like, I guess maybe 6 of them are for men and 6 are for women. It's like, whatever. It's like, you're a fucking moron, Charlize Theron.
I kind of like that explanation the best.
She never, it's like, it is kind of really comical, because she had, she had prepared for all this on the face of it, but she hadn't gone in-depth enough to realize, that would have been fucking hilarious if in the movie, Charlize Theron had been impregnated, and she went, and she pressed the med button, and it's like, I need a cesarean! I'm only programmed for male anatomy. Fucking son of a bitch!
She pulls out her wallet and gets her receipt out, and she's like, mail? Oh, fuck!
Son of a bitch! She's like, for fuck's sake!
She's stupid explanation backs up her actions in the last act, where she doesn't do anything intelligently, like rolling out from under the giant thing that's about to crush her.
But okay, the third and my personal favorite explanation is that Charlize Theron actually has a dick and is really a guy. It's like, and that, honestly... That makes so much sense with her character of why she's she probably was her father never, because her father wanted a son, and he had this son that was gay, obviously, and wanted to be a woman, and wouldn't let him do it. And so it's and so he dresses as Charlize Theron decides, I want to be a girl, and dresses as a girl, and whatever, and that's part of her character, and that's why she hates her father. Her father wants a son really bad. It's it has this really fucking crazy Freudian Oedipal
Edwardian
just clusterfuck of psychological issues thrown in.
Pull the string.
Yeah, it's it just makes. I mean, it adds a lot of really interesting questions to the movie, and I think that's a really interesting... It's I kind of want to write a paper about that. If I had a gender study class in college, I would totally write a paper on how Charlize Theron's character in Prometheus was actually a guy and point out all the reasons.
Her steely exterior was a response to social pressure.
But then it adds another really interesting context to an earlier scene where Idris Elba hits... where Idris Elba hits on Charlize Theron, and that's where it sort of establishes that she's not really an android, probably, and it's implied that they go and have sex, and that's Idris Elba's uses that to try to prove that she's not an android. It's
deleted scene.
Yeah, it's Idris Elba. But, I mean, it fits in with how the rest of the last act structured, because it would have been this huge plot reveal that just gets dropped. It's Idris Elba never brings it up again. The fact that he almost or did have sex with Charlize Theron that was really a cross-dressing guy. That just, adds a whole nother element into the movie that I think makes it a lot more fun.
I want to see a scene where, like, Idris Elba and her in the bedroom, like, they've got still
Yeah,
jazz
it's like-
playing, and they've got, like, lights and
It's
candles.
like I can just see like the camera angle. It's like you can kind of see like the top, like Charlize Theron's on the bed, and it's like you can kind of see like the top of like her like head, and like Idris Elba's in the center of the frame, and then he's like, "All right, baby, let's do this," and then like you hear this zip, and it's like, "What the fuck?" And then it just cuts to something else, like cuts to like the two idiots in the fucking like temple or whatever.
Okay, so we've talked about most of the characters. Now I think it's time. Is there anything else for Charlize Theron?
I think we covered Charlize Theron
Okay,
pretty well.
One more thing. The way she dies and her last like action movie, it emphasizes how useless she is. They spend all this screen time with her getting off the ship. It's like this big action scene of her getting to the pod and escaping.
Like, I love that they decided we're going to crash the ship to try to save the
human race.
Save the human race. So Idris Elba decides to sacrifice himself. He's like, Charlize Theron, you go get to the pods. And she runs and gets into a little tiny life pod, almost like an ODST thing from Halo.
Yeah.
It's like a little tiny, just like, a person barely fits in it and just like shoots out and drops onto the planet. And then she goes and gets that, drops off onto the planet, and then they just eject her life shuttle thing from it, and it just drops and falls on the planet. It's like, what the... You just it's like you just broke the life shuttle. It's like, Charlize Theron, go to the life shuttle that you prepared painstakingly with your crazy med pod that only works on dudes. Get in that and go fly the fuck away. It's like, don't drop off onto the planet, wait for them to eject it, break the fucking thing when it's upside down. It's just like, it was like a little like toy, like it just like popped off and boom, and lands on the planet, and then she runs and tries to get into it. It's like, you just take off from the fucking ship. It's like they completely wasted that like whole plot element.
And then she's running, and her and Liz are running, and she gets crushed by an arm of the ship. And
The ship is like shaped like a big horseshoe,
yes.
And it's falling sort of like it's falling sort of vertically where the like arm of the horseshoe is falling onto the planet, and she's running in a straight line away from the big straight like thin cylinder that of the spaceship that is falling onto her instead of fucking run the other direction! Like, 90-degree turn, left or right, your fucking choice. Just don't run along the breadth of the fucking ship that's about to crush you! You fucking moron! It's like, you could have survived, and Liz Shaw fucking does it too.
Yeah.
She gets saved because apparently a rock, just like a boulder, is enough to keep the ship from crushing her. It's like, that's pretty fucking impressive. That's a pretty strong rock.
It's alien, you know.
Yeah, it's too bad for Charlize Theron that she wasn't next to a rock.
I know.
That didn't save her life. It's like, just turn and walk the other fucking direction.
But to me, it just emphasizes how useless the character is that they spend all this time on her.
She just fucking dies.
Yeah. And it's a gag death, too.
It's not even it is like, kind of like the first or second death in like a slasher movie, where it's like, the character just sort of dies and it's just like another death for a fun death scene instead of being a character death.
And I thought they were going to go like, wah, wah, after she dies.
I was hoping that like Charlize Theron wouldn't like be alive and she'd like lift up the ship and throw it off and she would have been an android the whole time and she was like super android. It's like, nope. That would have been awesome. Or she was Wonder Woman. I'm just coming up with better movies in my head now.
Yes. It's not hard. Okay. So we've talked about all the main... We've mentioned Idris Elba in passing. He's fun. He's not
he's like, his character's not a huge part of the movie, but he's a fun character. He's
the only consistent character.
Yeah, and it's like, he's like the only character who's, other than David, whose writing I actually like. Like, the other characters, the performances are okay, it's just the writing is fucking awful.
Yeah. Well,
even then, like, the best...
I'm going to fight you on that. I think some of these performances are pretty fucking awful.
It's like, I don't blame the performances because I blame the writing. It's like, I think it's like they played their character well. Their character was just, like, crazy and poorly written. I do have to say that my favorite parts of the writing are the lines that they take from Lawrence of Arabia, that they do, like, every other minute for David.
Okay.
Big things have small beginnings.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the desert, and no man needs nothing.
And Michael Fassbender has so much fun delivering these lines.
He's really good at that. I want to see a remake of Lawrence of Arabia with Michael Fassbender as.
Hey, if they ever do it, go ahead.
Lawrence. Yeah.
Not that Lawrence of Arabia needs a remake.
Yeah, no, that was a joke. I don't want them to remake Lawrence of Arabia.
Please don't do that.
Good movie.
I hope no studio boss is listening to this and got an idea.
It's like, brilliant. It's like you play Android, playing Peter O'Toole, playing T.E. Lawrence, playing David, playing Michael Fassbender.
Here's what I would like: a Prometheus spin-off where David goes back to Earth and reenacts Lawrence of Arabia, but he is actually David. Yes, that would be...
The trick is not minding that it hurts. It's like...
No, but anyway, so let's talk about the other characters. They're all...
My favorite. Can you talk about my favorite two characters? The geologist and the biologist?
Let's just start with a more general thing.
Okay.
The characters on this ship are so-called scientists. Now, Sean...
And let's point this out. This is a $1 trillion mission to go find what they... For whatever their drug-addled brains think, I don't know why, where they believe that their alien creators are going to be on this alien planet. And so they have this $1 trillion fucking dollar expedition. So these people should be the absolute fucking top, the best in their fields.
And they say they're all the best in their fields. Now, Sean, you know a little more about science than I do. Define for our listeners what you think makes a good scientist.
I mean, it's very simple. You're very methodical, and you follow the scientific method. You follow procedure. You minimize risk, you minimize mistakes, and you do everything slowly. If you're an archaeologist, you're not Indiana Jones. You don't run into a cave, fucking take a golden statue, and run away from a boulder. No, it's like you're going to catalog every fucking layer of dirt you dust off. If you find something, you are going to leave it there for a fucking week, making sure you perfectly analyze and preserve and photograph and record the area you found it in for further study. If you are a good scientist, you will literally take years doing the exact same fucking thing to make sure you get it perfect and absolutely right.
And make sure you can show other people why you did the things you did, how you did them.
You're very methodical and you record everything. Yes. You record everything and you do not make drastic, rash decisions that could bite you in the ass.
So, with that in mind, under your definition, do you think a good scientist, upon arriving at an alien planet that you spent 3 years in cryo to get to and $1 trillion to get you there, would you, upon arriving at this planet you know literally nothing about, would you take off your helmet without any knowledge about the atmospheric makeup of this area?
No. I want to just analyze. This is one of the things where a lot of people say this is a nitpick, and I understand why this happens. You don't want the actors to be in a big astronaut fucking dome head thing for the entire movie. Fair enough. It's like...
I don't think that's fair, because part of why you have this movie in 3D is because you can see better inside the helmets in 3D. Oh. You may remember that from Avatar.
Oh, yeah.
When they're in helmets, it looks better in 3D. That's one of the reasons you shoot in 3D. And I thought they looked really good, the helmets in 3D. They were even made for 3D where they're big domed and out, so you can still see the full head inside there because you're seeing all 3 dimensions. So there is no excuse.
So yeah, the only one that I had is like, I thought it's like, okay, maybe you didn't want to have them in this. Yeah, but okay, fair enough. I didn't see it in 3D, so it's like, it might have been. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, so fair enough. There's really no reason. So yeah, what happens is that is such a fucking stupid scene. Where
it angered me.
They have the team, they have the 2 archaeologist people. At least Liz Shaw, I know, is an archaeologist. I don't know what the fuck the other guy... The other guy was the worst scientist.
He was the worst character in the movie. I hated him because he
was a jackass, he was annoying, he
was a different character in every single scene.
Yeah, it's like he wasn't consistent, he was just really bizarre. He was just not...
I never figured out why Liz liked him.
Yeah, their relationship was bizarre. But it's like... And they never understood... I guess both of them were supposed to be archaeologists because they were... at the archaeology dig site. But they never... I don't think they ever actually state that they're archaeologists. They do, I didn't quite catch it.
Yeah.
Or and they never actually do archaeology. They go look at a cave painting, and they go to an alien planet. Although, to be fair enough, literally, no fucking character does a single, scientific thing. Nobody, does, nothing they do is scientifically sound at all. None of their character decisions. Literally none.
This is the direct inverse of 2001.
Yeah. Where 2001 is painstakingly scientifically accurate.
To a frustrating degree sometimes.
Yeah, to a very frustrating degree sometimes. And it's also not focused on an actual... It's like, 2001 is focused almost entirely on, the trip, not the actual science. Because, it would be hard to make an actual scientific survey interesting. But, they do kind of get away from it by having all the stuff happen at the very beginning. But they don't even get the beginning of the scientific survey down. But anyways, this scene. The scene where they land on the alien planet now. Oh, this just fucking reminds me of another thing. It's like, this is a nitpick. This isn't a big deal. But they go... God, I didn't catch... Okay. I keep on interrupting myself with stupid things I keep removing of the movie. This is the biggest nitpick, and I recognize this is the hugest nitpick of anything I've ever nitpicked in all of my nitpicking life.
This is bigger than Blue Fingertips.
This is way bigger. The beginning of the fucking movie, or not at the very beginning, but like when they're going through space, it has like the sort of like title card thing where it says like spaceship Prometheus, like scientific vessel. It's like date whatever, like the 2092 whatever. It's like if it takes place on Christmas, that it doesn't need to really take place on Christmas. It's like that's another half baked spiritual thing that they throw into the movie. And apparently the movie takes place over the course of like 6 days because it ends on New Year's. But then they say distance from Earth, and it was like. They did something like, 2.4 times 10 to the 27th kilometer. What fucking scientist is going to measure a distance 2.4 times 10 to the 27th kilometers? Use fucking light years, you hacks! Like...
Or parsecs. Or
use some fucking actual, like astronomical units, parsecs, light years. Take your fucking pick. But there are actual units of measurement that are reasonable for determining distances in space.
That bothered me too. I mean, I've taken the most basic astronomy course you can. You and I both have taken this course. And I know more about that than apparently the makers of this movie
because
did.
It's like... because I don't... Nobody except for some, not even a scientist would have a perspective on what 4.2 times 10 to the 27th kilometers is going to be.
No.
That unit of measurement is so insane. You have no frame of reference for it. If you use light years, it's like you as the viewer can actually sort of get it. Because, okay, so we're, say 27 light years away from Earth. Like, whatever. You pick an actual unit of measurement that makes sense. It's like... And I know that's a huge nitpick. It's not a big problem with the movie.
But
there's another thing where they had said, Charlize Theron at one point said that they were, hundreds of millions of miles from Earth. It's like, bitch, that's you're around the asteroid belt if you're hundreds of millions of miles from Earth. You're not even close to out of the fucking solar system.
But it is an interesting thing, because I never got a sense of how far they were.
Yeah, it's because, and that's one of the things that I just really love about good sci-fi. It's Alien didn't have the problem because Alien didn't bring it up. Alien didn't try to decide how far away they are from Earth. They're just shipping minerals back to Earth. It's fair enough, whatever. But it's if you're having a hard sci-fi movie like this, it's just a small element that really adds a lot. Where if you had this, is dude. Have your fucking light years. It's if you don't do hundreds of millions of miles from Earth just because it sounds good, have an actual measurement, because you can hire actual scientists to advise your movie. And if if you're, say, a person writing a script for a movie that takes place fucking on the other side of the goddamn galaxy or wherever the hell they were, at least outside of the solar system, farther than Alpha Centauri, the closest star, farther than that at the very least. They're not I know they're not at Alpha Centauri. It's you can hire fucking someone who knows what they're talking about to be okay, let's just patch up the script and let's say, okay, you're 500 light years away from Earth or whatever the fuck you want to say. It's but actually get some internal consistency. Once again, huge nitpick,
I know.
But it bugged me, and I had to bring it up.
Now back to the scientists.
Okay, so this is the thing that I was going to say, and then I interrupted myself when I remembered the earlier thing. Is that so they go 4.2 times 10 to the 27th kilometers from Earth. I have no idea. That might also not be that far out. I have no idea. That's a really bizarre distance. But they go to this moon, really far away from Earth, wherever the fuck it is. It took them 2 years to get there or something?
2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah, it's they said it was either 2 or 4, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But it's I think it was 2 years, because I remembered I was thinking, okay, it's a 4-year trip there and back.
Okay.
It's that's one thing if you're watching a good sci-fi movie, information like that is sometimes useful because you can get some perspective on the movie. So whatever, it takes them 2 years to get there, $1 trillion ship, and they go to the moon. They go to the moon, LV-223, and so it's a whole moon, and they just go down, they go right in, and they just fucking, by pure happenstance, on the entire fucking moon, arrive precisely. They just go straight fucking down, and it's oh wait, that looks like a thing, and they just they just land right there. They don't perform a survey. They never. I was listening. I was listening for technobabble. At least it's we performed a geographic survey of the surface captain. Well, it's yeah, thank you very much. Let's go to transporter rooms and beam down. Something like that. I was listening for some Star Trek type shit where they just throw out, okay, we know the atmosphere of the planet, and we know, okay, there's life forms down here. It's we detect slight life traces, or it's there's an abnormality in the topography of the planet. It's like, I was listening for a line like that. There was no fucking line like that. They go right down onto the moon and land right smack dab in front of the giant temple that's actually a weapons facility, that's actually a weapons facility above a hangar containing several giant fucking spaceships.
It is the most important thing in this star system.
Yeah, and they just fucking on the moon just land right there. They literally go down, spend like 2 minutes going down to the planet, and then jackass scientist is like, look at that. God doesn't build in straight lines. They're like, oh, let's go over there. It's like, okay. It's like, you don't even know. There could be a fucking city like a dozen miles over that mountain. There could be like an entire like culture of like living people over there. And you have no fucking clue.
I like the idea of an alt narrative Prometheus where like there is a town like 10 miles from them that's watching all this happen and being really
like,
confused.
Look at these fucking idiots. It's like, run to the left, you crazy bitch. It's like, yeah, it's so bizarre because they don't, because I as the viewer, you have no perspective on, is this the only thing on this planet? You don't know if there are other temples, other things. You have no idea. They just land right there and just fucking get right to it. So now to the thing that we were originally going to talk about. This is the problem with this movie. There are so many little fucking things that they all build up and destroy the movie. They just crush it.
And it's a thing where, again, you can't, on your initial assessment, think of them.
It's like when you're watching the movie, you don't quite notice it. You'll pick up like little things, that's kind of weird, but then you just kind of ignore it, and then you come back to it later.
And it's why my original review is more positive than what I would write now.
Yeah.
And probably the same with you if you were to have written a review that night, you know.
Yeah. If I had written a review right after the movie, it would have been like kind of, there's some stuff in this movie that's like, the movie kind of falls apart in the last act, but for the most part, it's a very enjoyable movie. And now it's like,
there's cracks in all of it.
Yeah, there's cracks in all of it. It didn't just start at the very end. Like, the first part was much better, but it's like, you could see the lines if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they go into the big, like, temple facility thing, and they establish that the moon has an atmosphere that is near Earth. It's almost exactly like Earth, but it has too much carbon dioxide, so if you breathed, you would suffocate very quickly because of all the carbon dioxide. So they decide, okay, we're going to the facility. They have all their spacesuit on. They have all their equipment. They've got, like, the 2 archaeologists. They have a geologist. They have a biologist. And whatever the other woman doctor, or the woman scientist was.
Oh, we never find out.
Yeah, she has, like, 2 lines in the movie, but she was the other person on the survey team. She was probably fucking a physicist or some chemist or something like that.
I don't think any of these people are very qualified.
Yeah. They're like, I should say every time, imagine when I'm telling you this, every time I say, like, scientist or geologist, biologist, archaeologist,
anything ending with an ist.
Think of that in quotations, because that's how it really is. But yeah, so they go into it, they find out, it's like, they have this little thing that says, I mean, basically, like, whatever, they're like tricorder or whatever, it says, the atmosphere in here is breathable, it's basically Earth atmosphere. In here, there's some sort of atmospheric shielding or some sort of atmospheric generator, even though the thing itself isn't sealed from the outside, so it doesn't really, like, the atmosphere from the outside would just get in. So I don't really, once again, it's like, I'm not a brilliant scientist, so it's like, I could be wrong about this stuff. This is my impression, that doesn't quite seem right. You would have to have something to contain the atmosphere. It's like, but whatever. So, breathable Earth atmosphere, I can forgive that. It's like alien technology. Maybe they can sustain some sort of artificial shielding that you can just pass through and not even notice that can contain the atmosphere. But, just because it's a breathable atmosphere doesn't mean you take off your helmet. But what the jackass scientist does, the guy who's dating Liz Shaw, who I will refer to as jackass scientist, he decides, well, fucking nothing ventured, and he's like, and he takes off his fucking helmet, and it's like, and to their credit, all the other people are like, what the fuck are you doing, you crazy, fucking insane maniac, don't take off your helmet, and they're like, don't do it, and Liz Shaw's like, don't do it, and then he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it, and then he takes off his helmet, and it's like, ta-da, I'm fine, and then it's like, he's like flying for 10 seconds, and everyone else is like, oh, fuck it, and they all take their helmets off too, so and
it's all based on one reading off their little thing.
Yeah, off their tricorder.
What if it's malfunctioning?
Yeah.
What if it did a bad reading? All scientific experiments, you get multiple sets of data before you make a conclusion.
It's like, and not even that, it's like, just like, apparently none of these people have ever read or seen movies of War of the Worlds. Because if you recall, in H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, Martians invade the planet, and the Martians get killed because their immune system isn't used to alien Earth microorganisms. It's just like, the Europeans going over to the New World and basically killing
all the Native Americans.
Yeah, killing hundreds of thousands of people with fucking smallpox because they have no resistance whatsoever to those viruses. They were never exposed, and it's incredibly dangerous. If you are on another fucking planet that you suspect, you believe has life, the reason you went there is because you believe it has something living on it, you do not fucking take off your helmet and expose your archaeological site on another fucking planet to the atmosphere in your suit, to the fucking germs on your body, the germs that you're breathing, the germs you're exhaling. You don't do that. You don't expose your site to all of that, and potentially, if there was anything living in there, you fuckers would have fucking killed it because you contaminated the site with
the other way around.
Or there are almost undoubtedly, because we later see that there were worms living in the soil. If there are living creatures in there, that means if you have a fucking multi-celled organism, you can bet your ass there are billions to trillions of microorganisms flying through the air, in the fucking soil, everywhere. You would be surrounded by alien microorganisms. And it's like, it just takes one that can fuck with your immune system that will kill you. That would kill all of you if the rest of you then decide to take off your fucking helmets.
And here's the thing. I cannot get over the idea that they did this based on one reading from their little... Here's the thing.
Atmosphere seems fine.
Here's the thing. The aliens in Dragon Ball Z, Frieza's men, are better scientists than this. Because when they get a reading on their scouter about power levels, they double fucking check.
Yeah, it's like, well, maybe we should make sure.
Apu, Freezer Soldier A in Dragon Ball Z is a better scientist than all of these people.
In like a huge budget, with like a lot of really good people behind it, hard sci-fi. Like, I can't stress this enough. This is not Star Wars. This is not sci-fi fantasy. Alien is an even more like strict, realistic sci-fi universe than fucking Star Trek. This is like we have established that this like real science applies in this universe. This is an actual fucking real world. There's no force. There's no telepathy. There are no magic powers. This is actual science fiction. And you have a cast almost entirely composed of actual scientists. Instead of just having them behave like scientists and keeping their fucking helmets on, they decide, fuck it, we're going to take our helmets off and contaminate the area and put themselves at extreme risk to infection. Surprise, surprise, does happen to them. I mean, it's not because they took off their helmets, but it should have. That would have been a great ending to the movie if all of them had died of an alien viral infection because they took off their fucking helmets. So,
oh god. Okay, so your two favorite characters. Are you ready?
My two favorite characters: the geologist who, this fucking guy. I love this guy in this movie because
is he the Irish guy?
I don't. He might be Irish. Like, he doesn't have an accent, but he's the guy with the mohawk.
Okay.
They set up this character as the biologist and geologist. They're like fucking Scooby-Doo characters for most of the movie, really. But they set them up like in the beginning of the movie. They're in the cafeteria and they're talking together, and they're kind of paired up. And the geologist, who you don't know is a geologist yet, he's like this big dude. He's got like this big red mohawk. He's got like scruff. He has like tattoos and stuff. He looks like a space biker, basically, only he's not wearing leather. They hint at him being basically sort of like the Marine. Like, if there's like, I suspected that he was going to be the security guy. Like, okay, if something goes wrong, because even later, before they're going, he's the one who wants to bring some weapons, which they don't. They end up deciding not to bring weapons.
I don't know why.
Yeah, or they don't, as far as I can tell, have like any security personnel except for like maybe a few, but they don't have any characters.
Yeah.
So I thought the guy was going to be military because that's how he acted in his first scene. That's how he was established as this hard-ass military dude. And the biologist was just sort of established as this naggy jackass who tries to get on people's nerves. Kind of like Jackass Scientist, but not the same.
Yeah.
So, biologists and geologists, they kind of buddy up, even though they're not, it's like they get on each other's nerves, but you can tell there's a budding romance there. And so they buddy up, and they're all going into the big alien facility. They trip, one of the things I think was kind of cool is they trip this hologram security thing that shows one of the space jockeys from Alien, who are the guys, they have like this sort of like carapace armor, and they're called the engineers in this movie. And that's like, and that was in Alien. He's the guy. He's like in the big, like sort of like control panel, like almost like gun looking thing in Alien. He's wearing like you suspected that it was like this almost like had like elephantine sort of helmet. And I like the design. I thought it looked cool. And you see one of those guys running through. He runs up to this door. He sort of falls down. And then
his head is chopped off.
Yeah, and his head is chopped off. And you see in the like in real world, not in the hologram, you see, oh, there's a dead body here with this door. And then David is, I just think it's also bullshit. He has like some sort of language training that somehow allows him to interpret an alien language, where it's like, you have no fucking frame of reference. You don't know if they fucking communicated telepathically. Well, you don't know if they communicated using pheromones. You have no idea.
Well, what if David was mistranslating the whole time? Yeah. And that's why the guy goes apeshit at the end of the movie. He said, what if he said something like,
your
go
mother fuck is yourself, you motherfucking jackass. It's like, fucking android. Yeah, it's like, but you're led to believe he understands the language because there's all these like written things on the wall and he sort of like touches them. And that's also kind of a cool thing that's like, when you touch, do you like interact physically with like actual writing on the wall to be able to like activate it? So, and like I suspect maybe like what was written on the wall was like open, and you like trace the symbol for open or something, and the door opens. Like that's kind of a cool idea if they had expanded on it. But it's just like a little cool sci-fi element. I like that. And so they open it up, they find this like, oh, this alien had his head cut off, and they bag the head, and they see this huge open like sort of like chamber with this big fucking human like sculpture head thing. Like, I mean, it's in like all the trailers and like the posters and stuff. Like,
cool design.
Yeah, it was really cool, and the room has this sort of like religious feel to it. It has all these like sort of like canisters on the ground that is almost like kind of like pots that are, and they're like closed, and you can see, this is where you see that there's some worms in the ground, setting up a later scene. And there's also another thing that kind of pissed me off. This is like something they should have done, where they said it's like, oh, there are these mosaics, and you kind of got a brief glimpse at them. And there's one of them had what looked like sort of like an outline of an alien queen, like the xenomorph alien from the actual Alien movies. It's like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. But they didn't like let you really see the mosaics, and I wish they had, because it would have been like just like, you know, a 10-second shot like panning across them or something, so you can kind of absorb them. Because right after that, like they sort of start decaying because they're like, oh, we changed something in the atmosphere here. So it's like, and that what they actually did is never really expanded upon. It's like that was another thing that sort of hinted at like something was going to happen, like should be an explanation to that, but there really isn't. And the only thing that, given the information, that you can assume is that because they took off their helmet, they introduced something in the environment that started to decay the mosaics on the wall. So it's like, well, great, you fucking contaminated the scene and just destroyed alien pieces of artwork. Probably religious artwork.
That would be the biggest discovery in human history.
Yeah, this is another thing that we should emphasize. That it's like this is first contact. As far as we are aware, like this is kind of like fishy and alien. You never really find out like what the relationship with like other aliens, if there are other aliens, because in the actual Alien movies, it doesn't really. It's like it doesn't seem like it, but they also don't react as if this was the first alien species they encountered. But in this movie, this is like hundreds of years before Alien. This is the first alien species they've ever encountered. It's like it was the first like remnants of an alien, like an actual alien civilization, and they go ahead and contaminated it. It's like this is the most important scientific thing humanity has ever done, ever. It's first contact, and for some reason they believe that they created mankind. It's adding like another thing on top of it. It's like they have no reason to believe that, and they're probably wrong about that. I'll get to that later. But.
So because these scientists are terrible about at their process, they destroyed the most valuable discovery in human history.
Yeah, they just destroyed alien artwork that was probably religious and probably had some sort of interesting, like, I mean, that would have been fascinating. If you were a fucking scientist, that would have been extraordinary. But I just realized I missed the thing. I was talking about the geologist and the biologist. When they find the dead body for the first time, the geologist is like, "Whoa, we should get the fuck out of here, man. This is fucked up. That is a dead alien body." And I'm like, "That's a dead fucking alien body! You're a fucking scientist. You should be, I mean, even if you're not a scientist, you should be like, holy shit, this is amazing. We were right. There were fucking bipedal fucking giant, like, actual humanoid alien creatures that clearly had some sort of intelligence. Probably an advanced intelligence. It's like, holy fucking shit, this is amazing. Instead, he's like, oh my god, it's a dead body. It's a body that has been dead for like 2,000 fucking years. I can't handle this. Me, the scientist. It's like, and not only that, the biologist guy, the guy who studies living creatures and fucking has probably, when he was getting his degree, dissected hundreds of fucking frogs and like tapeworms and what have you, is afraid of a mummified dead body. you're a fucking biologist. It's like, this is like what you do for a living. It's like, you are the person, you are the expert that we brought for this very situation. You are the person that's supposed to examine the dead body. You're the biologist. And you're afraid of it?
And they leave.
Yeah, no, it's like, oh my god, but there's so much, like, yeah, David, like, takes, like, some of the sample, because, like, this is where the black oil virus, it's the X-Files thing, but it looks exactly like the X-Files black oil virus. That's where they discover that's what's in the canisters, and they're like, oh, this is cool, it's like, it's kind of seeping into the ground, because they disturb the atmosphere. David takes some of it, like, takes one of the canisters, and then they decide, it's like, they say, it's like, oh, there's a magnetic storm, we're going to leave. But before that, yeah, the geologists and the biologists are so freaked out they decide we're going to go back to the ship. Now, mind you, before this, the geologists had brought out these two things that, or more than two things, these like probes that mapped the fucking cave system. And he was the guy who was mapping the cave system. He was the guy who had the things. They are in high-tech astronaut suits. They also have a comm link and a video link back to the ship, being observed by Idris Elba, who's watching them all. He can see what they see, and he's in constant communication. Idris Elba, like, knows everything that's going on. He can talk to any of them whenever he wants, and they have a map of the facility. The geologist and the biologist, include the geologist, the guy who mapped the facility, and who has a constant connection to the ship, they get lost in the facility. They get lost! And they only realize that those people got lost once the main group of scientists go back to the ship. It's like, Idris Elba, you can see that they're lost. You could tell them, hey, fuckers, hang a right here, and you can come back to the ship. It's like, and they only went into the facility. They walked for, like fucking, 2 minutes. It's like they went right into the facility and found the big fucking door. It's not like you could really get lost. It's like, you have a map of the fucking facility. There's no possible way you could get lost, and they do. They get lost. But that leads to my favorite part of the movie, where the geologist and the biologist are bungling around in the big temple by themselves, like two complete idiots, and this is where the Scooby-Doo people. There's all this stuff where, like, Idris Elba is fucking with them, kind of, where he says, like, there's a life form in there, because they have to stay in the ship, because there's or they have to stay in the temple because it's a huge, like, silicate storm, which was a really cool effect. I like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, and they have to, they're in the temple, and Idris Elba's kind of fucking with them. They find this giant pile of dead alien bodies just, like, stuffed in the corner. It's like, it's like some shit went down here. It's like, there's a life form. It's like, let's get away from that life form. We're afraid. We are not going to fuck with anything in here because we are the characters who are terrified. Even though it's stupid, even though the geologist was set up as being a badass, and the biologist should be the guy fascinated by living, like, by the specimens, they are the two really afraid characters. Like, whatever. They've been established as that now. And they decide, okay, we don't want to do that. Let's leave and let's go back. And they go back to the room they were so afraid of in the first place. That's the reason why they left. They go back to that room and decide to fucking hang out in there. And it's like, the geologist guy has, like, a fucking bong in his suit, and he's getting high in his astronaut suit.
This is when the movie just, like, was frustrating the hell out of me. Like,
what the fuck? It's like that came out of nowhere. It's like he's getting high in his astronaut suit. It's like the other guys, they're, like, deciding they're going to, like, try to sleep in the big fucking, like, temple room. At this point, the black oil virus stuff has leaked out of the canisters and is, like, covering the fucking ground.
And they can see it.
Yeah, and they see it. They remark on it. It's like the geologist guy's getting high, the biologist guy's trying to go to sleep, and then an alien penis snake monster pops up out of the ground. It's like, it's implied that it was one of the worms from earlier that got evolved.
And this is great, what he does.
And this is, so the biologist, the guy who was fucking afraid of all the dead bodies they found, he decides, he's like, oh, holy shit, look at that thing, holy shit. Look at that!
How cute it is!
It's like, oh, you're so beautiful. And he starts playing with the alien snake penis. It's like, are you insane? What are you doing? It's kind of, and not only that, it's exhibiting, like, classic animalistic, like, threatening behavior.
Yes.
Like, it's like, don't fuck with me. It's sort of like growling, and it, like, snaps at him once, almost like, kind of like a cobra.
So
it's
things
like,
that a biologist would be trained to look out for?
Yeah, a biologist would be trained to look at. I mean, fair enough, this guy is interested in the alien life form, even though he's afraid of the dead ones. But it's like, you have no idea what this thing is. This thing could spit acid, and it almost does. But it's like, this thing could, you'd have no idea. This thing could have teeth made of diamonds that could rip your fucking spacesuit apart. You have no perspective for what this life form is. You should not be fucking with it. You should maybe try to capture it. Even that I'm not so sure about. It's like, I would probably wait for like backup and get like proper equipment to try to catch it. You sure as shit shouldn't try to catch it with your bare fucking hands. And you shouldn't, once it just exhibits aggressive behavior and demonstrates that it doesn't want to be fucked with, a biologist would realize, I'm not going to fuck with this thing I know nothing about. Instead, he's like sort of playing with his like, oh, come here, baby, I'm not going to hurt you, don't worry about it, oh, you're so beautiful. And then, lo and behold, the thing fucking attaches to his arm, snaps his arm off, and they like fucking, it starts killing him. At this point, high geologist guy decides
I can't believe we're describing the scene.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
We saw
he decides to try to cut it off. And this is actually my favorite shot in the movie. He like tries to cut off the alien parasite, and it shoots out acid blood because I guess it's supposed to be a xenomorph type thing. And the acid blood sprays onto his helmet, and it was just like this really cool effect where it like melts the glass on the helmet and sort of like vacuum forms on his face. That was a really awesome shot. And then the alien penis monster goes down the guy's throat. The biologist's throat, and the geologist collapses into the black oil virus. And it's like,
so the alien penis does some deep throating?
Yeah, the alien penis deep throats him. I mean, the Alien franchise is always rife with like sexual and like rape imagery. It's like fair enough. You brought that back. It's like, that's good. We all like that stuff from Alien. This is great. It's like, it's pretty stupid what these two fucking characters just did. The biologist guy just did a complete... Actually, no, both of them did a complete 180, because they should have been afraid of that room, because they were afraid of it before. It's like, you could have slept in the fucking hallway where there was nothing. It's like, no. And then, so yeah, that was fucking stupid. That was so fucking... That's like, that scene.
I hated that scene when I saw it.
It's like, I loved it, but for like completely different reasons than the rest of the movie. I was like... This is like, I mean, it was really like a scene from like a B horror movie or like a B sci-fi horror movie.
No,
like
I was laughing.
Off of Alien.
I was laughing at it, and the people I saw it with were mad at me.
Yeah, because it's like, it was hilarious because it's like the guy's getting high in his suit, they're fucking with the little alien monster thing, and then they just get, and all the action stuff where like when it snaps his arm and the acid blood, all that stuff was really cool and really well done. It's like, the character stuff was just so stupid. It's like all this, like, they never should have been lost. It's like, they never should have gone back to the room. They never should have fucked with the thing. And it's like, and these aren't, like, things that you can just be, it's like, oh, it's a horror movie, characters have to do stupid things. It's like, no, this is way farther than, like, 18-year-old, like, teenagers, like, getting high and getting drunk and getting killed by, like, Freddy. It's like, that's fine. That works for those movies. That's like those slasher movies. Those are stupid characters doing stupid things. These are characters that are supposed to be the best scientists in their respective fields
in the
world, and they're doing the stupidest fucking things. And their characters are contradictory, even to like those stupid things they do. It's like they're stupid because they're afraid of things they shouldn't be afraid of, and then they're stupid because they're not afraid of things that they should be afraid of, and they get killed because of it.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So, next major plot point would probably be David infecting...
Yeah, David infects Jackass. Oh, wait, no. No, this is... I said before, my favorite... Like, those are my two favorite characters. This is my favorite stupid scene. Is they brought the alien head back. And they put the alien head there, like, decide, okay, we're going to examine this alien head on the ship. And it's like, is like, the Liz Shaw and the other female scientists, like, we're going to do this. Like, first thing they do... is they crack open the like they reveal that it's a helmet. They crack it open. It's like, oh, this guy, he basically it's an albino human head. It's like one that's I thought that was kind of disappointing because I don't, we have enough aliens that look exactly like humans. But whatever. Yeah. It's like, fair enough. It's part of the plot. But whatever. It's like they decide, it's like, oh, holy shit, this thing looks almost exactly human. And it's like they put it in this like device. The device scans it and it's like, no contaminants present. And they also take a DNA sample. There's so much stuff in this fucking scene. They also take a DNA sample, and they run it against human DNA, and it says 100% match. The computer recognizes the DNA as human. Okay, so oh my god, there's so much wrong with that. Okay, one, Liz Shaw then uses this as evidence of that these creatures created, like, engineered humanity. She's like, we have proof now. This is like, that's what happened. These things engineered humanity in the same way that, like, we would create an android, is the way she means it. you fucking bitch, you dumb bitch. No, 100% DNA match means you are the same species. You are those creatures. You are their ancestors.
They wouldn't look different.
Yeah. No. I mean, they may have because it's like they are basically the exact same. They're just really pale and they're really buff.
I guess
it's I could see like 100% DNA. They're just like really ripped. It's like that's fine. I don't really have a big problem with that. The problem is you don't draw the conclusion then that they created you like God creating mankind or like you creating the android. How they created you is they fucked each other and had babies. Because that's what that is. It's just sexual reproduction. You're the same species. You are just, and this is what I thought they were going to do, and this has been done a lot in other sci-fi, but this would have made perfect sense, is that you are ancestors from their species that got left behind on Earth, and through the course of thousands of years, you forgot, the original people, all obviously died, and you didn't realize that you were actually from an alien planet and weren't originally from Earth. There are problems with that, but it's sort of nitpicky science problems. It's like, that would have been fine. Instead,
and then the whole reveal of the movie is that you still don't know the creator.
Yeah.
You just know that there's more of you out there.
You find out that you're not from Earth and that it's like you're a different people. It's like you're...
Or at the very least, you're not alone in the universe.
Yeah, it's like in your whole perspective of humanity is completely different. It's like that's what that evidence indicates. Instead, dumb bitch decides that evidence indicates that they created humanity. I mean, I get what they're trying to do. It's like, God created mankind in its own image, and it's like they had the same thing with the android. The problem is that that's not what that evidence doesn't indicate that that's actually what occurred. You could have come up with something that could have indicated that, but having 100% DNA match doesn't fucking do that. And there's also the whole thing where their whole idea of the guys dissolve their DNA onto a planet, and then eventually it reforms and evolves into a human being over hundreds of millions of years of evolution. To have 100% DNA match makes no fucking sense.
No, it doesn't.
Almost all the life forms on Earth have most of the DNA is similar. Most of the life forms on Earth are microorganisms. If anything, the microorganisms would have 100% DNA match, and the fucking dudes would be big, white, really buff amoebas. Yeah. Basically, it's like there's no. I mean, we had fucking 65 million years of dinosaurs, or 125 million years. It's like dinosaurs are way more likely to have been the same as these guys than human beings. There's absolutely no fucking way that through the course of evolution, you would then have the exact same creature to 100% DNA match, the same species, evolve. Fucking impossible. There's no goddamn way. And they don't even bring it up. So it's like, but I could accept that. That's just one little science thing that's it's almost impossible to account for with their premise. I was trying forever to come up with a way to try to get around that because it's a cool idea, but it's there's almost no way. So it's I can ignore that piece because it's whatever. Fair enough. But now, remember, they had put the head in the thing and it said no contaminants present. And then they take the head out, and immediately once they take the head out, little tiny black things start coming off the top of the head and are moving. It's that's a fucking contaminant. That's a life form. That's a living thing on the top of the head. That's a contaminant. Your fucking machine is broken. Just fucking get rid of the contaminants. And then, okay, so remember, this is the only specimen of an alien species we have ever encountered. We only have the head right now. It's the only one. Biggest discovery in the history of human science.
Yes.
It's you have the head, and it's you are going to now try to examine it and glean what you can learn from it. You've done the DNA test. Good. You found out that it was human. You apparently have no idea what that implies, but whatever. You at least it's basically
you've made a discovery.
Head. It's but instead of I don't know, using some sort of space like X-rays or something, it's instead of photographing and recording the entire thing, instead of maybe eventually dissecting it after you've done all the stuff, what they decide to do. They take a fucking electrode, stick it in the decapitated head's neck. They say some bullshit thing about, I think we can restart the nervous system. I don't know what that's supposed to tell you. You don't have any way of analyzing the brain. They didn't have little things stuck to its head or anything. It was just a decapitated head. So I don't know why they're trying to restart the nervous system somehow of a decapitated head. I don't know what they expect to happen. But what does happen is they stick the electrode in the neck, they pump the fucking thing full of electricity, the head, like, starts, like, deforming and being like, and it's like jaws opening, and it's like, looks like it's in pain, even though it's dead, but it's like, whatever. And they're pumping it full, it's like, to turn it up, it's like, turn it up to 40 volts, it's like, okay, and then the head explodes! It's like, you are the stupidest fucking people on the fucking planet!
Are these the worst scientists in any movie ever?
How did you... It's like, and it's never explained really why, like, it's sort of hinted that there's supposed to be some, like, sinister reason why the head exploded, because nobody understands why, and I'm like, you know, maybe it's because you just pumped it full of fucking electricity! You just, like, attached it to a car battery, and it's just, like, decided to see what fucking happened! It's like, maybe if you had a whole pile of the decapitated heads and had only... done a thorough examination of them, then maybe you can start fucking around with electricity. It's like maybe you should stick it in a microwave. It's like, let's try and put it in a toaster and see what happens. It's like, that's as much science as what you just did. It's like, you just blew up your only fucking specimen, you maniacs. This is like the worst science ever. You could not have possibly done. It's like, the only worst thing is, like, they're like, well, we got this head. Hey, hand me a grenade, and just stick it in the mouth and let it blow up, instead of doing it through electricity.
I was going to say they go out to in front of the spaceship, take their helmets off, and play soccer with them.
It's like, at least then you could, like, determine the durability of the fucking thing. Just like, and how round it is. It's like, oh my god, that was the stupidest fucking... It's like, when that happened, I was like, what are you doing? Jesus Christ.
Okay, so we're still only like 30 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. There's so many little things in this movie. And then another thing is Jack, like, okay, David decides he's going to poison Jackass Scientist. It's never really explained why, but it's like, whatever, he's going to do it with...
Well, I thought that was a good bit of ambiguity. That
yeah, it's like, that's fair enough. Like, they could have had a little bit of a hint about, like, exactly why. But,
and I didn't feel it had ultimate payoff with why.
Yeah, it didn't have any payoff, because you don't find out what the black oil virus is. But he, like, poisons him and puts it in his drink. But this fucking Jackass Scientist is, like, super depressed, and he's, like, getting drunk. He's just like, I wanted to talk to the aliens. It's like, I know we just made the most amazing discovery ever of all time. We just found an alien species that has 100% like a DNA match to our species, so they're not an alien species. They're actually human. We just found a dead human on a moon, God, like 4.2 times 10 to the 27th kilometers away. It's like, this is the most amazing funky thing in the world. But I wanted to talk to one of them, so I'm going to get drunk.
And here's the thing. That's such inconsistent characterization, because where did that come from?
Yeah, it's like...
Why is that suddenly his motivation?
You didn't know that he wanted to talk to one of them before. It's like, and why did you have any expectation whatsoever? One, that they would even be there. Two, that they would be the things that you thought they were, because you had no reason to believe that whatsoever. And three... It's like, why would you have any expectation that they would still be alive? You have no idea. There could have been a fucking meteor strike that changed the atmosphere and killed all of them. It's been 2,000 years at least. I mean, they find that out. They carbon date the head. That's another thing they do. They do right. They carbon date the head and find out that it's been dead for 2,000 years. It's like, there you go. That's another bit of science that they did. That is the bit of science that they did correctly in the whole movie.
It's not exactly difficult.
Yeah, it's just like standard procedure. It's like one throwaway line. But yeah, it's like Jackass Scientist. It's like if Neil Armstrong, when they went to the fucking moon, stepped off and was like, the moon's not made out of cheese. This is bullshit, and got drunk. It's like, why would you think that would happen? Like, why are you so depressed about that? You should be ecstatic. You're on the fucking moon.
So he's depressed. He's drinking. He gets the poison. What else do you want to talk about there?
Let's see.
We kind of covered the pregnancy and all that.
Yeah, he fucks Shaw. Let's see. He basically like finds out he's sick, but he doesn't tell anybody.
And then there's the weird scene where he comes back and he like self-sacrifices himself. Like, no, you need to do this.
That whole
Why?
thing.
How does he know? Why is he self-sacrificing? He seems like a pretty selfish piece of shit.
And this is where the movie falls apart to me. It's like, they find out that he's sick. They're going to bring him back to the ship. Charlize Theron doesn't want to let them on to actually like keep containment procedures.
She's the one good scientist in this movie.
Fair enough, Charlize Theron. And she has a fucking flamethrower. I have no idea why in Alien every fucking person has a goddamn flamethrower. It's like, you're on a cargo ship, flamethrower. Part of a Marine brigade, fucking flamethrower. Charlize Theron, flamethrower. But it's like, yeah, they have fucking flamethrowers, and the dude's infected. And they're like, he's like, just kill me, and Charlize Theron fucking torches the dude with a flamethrower. Liz Shaw is sitting right there. It's like, Jackass Scientist is supposed to be the guy that she loves. It's like, he just gets torched. And then cut.
We never mention him again.
Yeah, no, there's no, like, we just had Charlize Theron just killed someone. None of the crew reacted that Charlize Theron just killed someone. Charlize Theron just never reacts as she just killed someone. Fucking Liz Shaw never reacts that her boyfriend just got torched to death in front of her fucking eyes. And nobody also brings up the fact that they had just discovered the dead bodies of the other guys. And so it's like, those guys are dead. Like, one of our guys has been affected and just got torched to death by Charlize Theron. It's like, none of that stuff comes up again. And this is where the movie starts not just having little stupid pieces, but starts failing sort of structurally.
It does.
It fails to bring up, to have, like, up to this point, the movie had perfect pacing. It's like, all, like, the character stuff had, like, little, like, establishments and payoffs and stuff like that. It's like, structurally, it was sound. Like, a lot of, like, the details were poorly done, but it's like, structurally, it was fine. But now, you have, like, the biggest fucking character moment there should be is that guy getting torched. Like, that should be really devastating. And it's like, everyone should be dealing with that. Like an Alien, when a member of the crew gets killed, like when the captain gets killed, like, the three remaining people are like, oh shit, we have to figure out something to do now. It's like the captain just got killed. It's like, this alien is on board this ship. It's like, when the guy gets the facehugger attached to him, it's like the entire movie is about the crew trying to deal with, this guy is going to probably maybe dead already. It's like, this is a big deal. And this, the people die, and then it just goes away.
It is, and why when we cut, why are they not back in orbit around the planet, away from this?
They still stay on orbit, and then this is where the whole pregnancy thing starts, where David's like,
but it's like,
oh, you're 3 months pregnant. I don't know how he knows she's 3 months pregnant with a squid alien monster. But it's like, I don't know how you establish that. You should see it through the ultrasound. It's like, she's clearly not 3 months pregnant. She's like 5 minutes pregnant. It just has a fucking insane gestation period.
Yeah. That's what he meant to say. It's just not said well. And why would David be viewing pregnancy in that way? He's an android. He's not going to do it through human terms.
He's like, and it's like, okay, and then also it's...
that's a nitpick, though, whatever.
Yeah, and David's like, okay, we're going to put you in cryogenic freezing, and...
This is, I will say this, it is a nice, creepy atmosphere they've got going.
Yeah, now that, like, once, like, you're not really sure whether or not David is a villain, like, exactly what he's trying to do, all that stuff's really cool.
Yeah.
It's like, now, this is when Shaw decides, I'm going to cut the thing out of my body. And that whole... It's just like, you really like this scene, right?
I did, and here's what I'll say, is that I know, this was the part where the movie was breaking down for me, but the good atmosphere around David and that scene was enough that I wasn't, like, disliking the movie yet.
I can see that.
And so I was still on board with it. It was after that scene where I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, this is after the guy died and there was, like, no aftermath, and, like, all this, like the movie started, like, falling apart for me, and I was, like, really, like, because it was so bizarre because it was so different from the rest of the movie. Like, it really felt like 2 or 3 scenes had just gotten cut.
No, I agree. Yeah. And so I was still disconcerted with it, but I was focusing more on I was like, okay.
Yeah, I couldn't focus on the scene because it's like, even though, like, I recognize the scene was really cool and well done, but there are still problems with this. This is kind of nitpicky, but...
Okay.
I don't think it's that nitpicky. So she does the thing, it's like, oh, it's an alien, or it's like, we can't operate on female anatomy, this is the male machine for Charlize Theron. It's like, okay, instead of doing a cesarean... just fucking rip the thing out of me. It's like, it's basically the same thing, but just do it. She would
die.
Yeah. So she gets into the med pod. Apparently the med pod isn't able to recognize that she's a woman. I was like, I don't know how it does surgery if it's not able to, like, scan or examine the person being... Maybe it's just like, oh, you're a very feminine person that has no penis.
Maybe it's programmed...
And you have fucking other organs.
Maybe it's programmed by American congressmen who do not want to recognize that there's such a thing as a vagina.
Yeah, it's like that there's no... Like, women's health issues in the future are, like, fucking weird as shit, apparently.
Well, if we continue on this specific path, that's where... Maybe it's a political commentary.
Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it is. But yeah, she decides this, like... So she just tells it to rip the fucking thing out of her, basically. And so the thing just, like... cuts her stomach open into what I just assume must be her fucking uterus, and just rips it. This just, like, this, like, it cuts her open. This little, like, robot hand reaches down and just pulls out this big alien squid and just, like, pulls it out. And it's like, what? How are you not... It's like, you can't just cut someone's stomach open, pull out a thing the size of a fucking baseball or a fucking football, and then it just staples her stomach. It's like it provided local anesthetic. It didn't knock her out or anything. She was jamming herself full of painkillers the entire fucking time, so she was probably doped off her mind. But it's like, it just cut you open. It's like, and it didn't realize that she had a uterus. So I don't know. Apparently it thought it was pulling out her large intestine. I don't know what the machine thought it was doing. It's like, what the fuck did you just... God! Like, it was like it's so weird.
And I guess why...
Because all you had to do was basically have the machine say, dispensing medical biofoam or something. Like, just like come up with some bullshit magic science. Like, this would be something that you can just sort of science away. That's fine. We don't know their medical technology. It's clearly advanced. You have a space med super surgery pod. Maybe it can just fucking, like, seal up the wound and stop internal bleeding. But it doesn't. It staples her stomach shut and just like, boom, have a nice day.
And that did bother me for the rest of the movie, especially when she gets into the tight suit.
Yeah.
That would increase the internal hemorrhaging.
Yeah.
If you get
she would be fucking dead or passed out at the very least. Like, there's no fucking way.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I guess why I was that whole scene, I was like, this is unrealistic, because I knew that. But it's sort of like, it's a horror thriller. So
and it was a cool scene. Like, it looked well. It had nice tension in it.
Yeah, it was very viscerally effective at feeling like you're feeling what she's feeling. It's like, it was really good at impacting that, and I guess that's what they were going for. And so that's a scene where I don't mind the bad science as much as other scenes, but it is an issue because there's not any... That she immediately gets up and starts running around.
Yeah,
that bothered me for the rest of the movie. Even at the end of the movie, I'm still thinking, how is she moving?
Yeah, she should definitely...
She needed, to be confined to bed rest for the rest of the movie, which would be fine because she doesn't do a single important thing for the rest of the film. Yeah. They basically write her out of the movie while she's still there.
Seriously, and she's the main character.
Yeah.
And that happens. Then they reveal that Wayland's still alive and on the ship. And that plot point just, disappears. It's like Charlize Theron's revealed as Wayland's daughter. That plot point just, disappears and goes nowhere. And then, this is another thing I fucking love, is they have this scene, so, Noomi Rapace, Liz Shaw, she's had to just... She doesn't tell anyone at all. Nobody knows what just happened. They know that she was impregnated. That's known. She knocked out 2 people. That's not brought up. And it's like... And so they know all this stuff, other than they don't know that she just had it cut out of her in that surgery machine. She never tells anybody. Nobody comments on the fact that she has her fucking stomach stapled shut.
And she's covered in blood.
Yeah, she's covered in blood. Nobody brings it up. It's, really bizarre.
And she's half naked. All these things.
And so nobody knows anything about this, which is why, the scenes have no impact because there's no aftermath to them. The scenes, all the scenes after that, after... the guy dies, and actually kind of starting with the guy dies, have no aftermath, so their impact is really gone, and none of the characters react to it, so you have no frame of reference for the characters and how the characters are acting anymore. But then Idris Elba comes into Liz Shaw's room, and he just fucking starts talking, is like, do you know what this thing is? This is a weapons facility. These people didn't live here. They built this thing. They didn't want to live where they kept their, crazy biological weapons, and I'm just saying this, how the fuck do you know any of this, Idris Elba? You were on the ship the entire goddamn time. This could be fucking a religious, it looks like it's a religious temple. You have no clue. And the movie just tells you that and expects you to accept it because it then basically kind of reveals that that's basically true once you, find out that there's the guy living down there and there's the ships. And that apparently, and then they decide that, they were going to go to Earth. they find that out because of... Fucking David figures out it's okay, even though there's really no evidence that they're going to go to Earth, he finds a hologram. He sees that that has the planet Earth. You don't really know if he selected the planet Earth, if they were going to go to the planet Earth. You don't know why they're going to go to the planet Earth. You have no idea what they were doing. You have no compelling evidence for any of this. But they just assume, 1, it's a biological weapons facility instead of some sort of religious temple or something like that. 2, that then they were going to use those biological weapons to come to Earth and kill all the humans. And 3, that they had originally created the humans, and now that they decided they wanted to destroy them. Those are the 3 biggest kind of things, especially they created humanity and wanted to destroy them. There's no evidence for either of those points, and those are the 2 most important points in the entire movie. And the movie just tells you that's what it is and expects you to accept it without establishing it visually and through actual logical evidence and character development. It makes no sense. It's just biological weapons facility, they want to come to Earth and kill all of us. That's just it. We're just going to say that.
And that's
like they didn't go to like a fucking computer archive and like fucking figure it out or anything. It's just like that's what it is now. We're going to say that's what it is now because we have to finish the movie pretty soon.
And that's exactly what bothered me with the movie, is what you just described.
Yeah.
And you read my review. In the parts where I was trying to talk about what I didn't like about the third act, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I couldn't spoil it in that review, obviously, so it was hard to talk about it. But that's it, and it bothers me on multiple levels. In some sense, it's too ambiguous.
Yeah.
And in some sense, it's not ambiguous enough.
Yeah.
Because on one level, I don't need to know that much about the aliens' motivations and stuff. But on another level, if I'm gonna know it, it needs to make fucking sense.
Yeah, it's like if you're going to like they could have left the whole thing ambiguous, what the facility was, and if they were going to go to Earth or not. They could have left that completely ambiguous.
I would have been fine with that.
Yeah. Instead, they decide they're going to tell you that that's the case without just to have their like big action ending without like having it happen naturally through the story. They just tell you it.
Through a character who could not
Yeah,
know.
who could Idris Elba has no way of knowing. Like, maybe David could, but you don't really, because at this point, David doesn't say a lot. Like, there's some nice moments with him, but you don't... That's one
They do lose a handle on David here,
yeah,
I feel.
It's like you don't have a good understanding of why David does anything that he does at this point, or exactly really what he's doing, or how he knows what he's doing. Like, all his familiarity with the alien technology isn't... Like, there's no real reason he should have that familiarity other than he needs to for the plot to move along.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably explain it away, and this is probably what they were thinking, that he's just good at intuition with this, because he's a robot, I don't know.
Yeah, but it's like you have no
Doesn't
frame
work,
of reference
yeah.
for this alien culture at all, so there's no real way. But yeah, they find out that it's like, okay, they find out that there's the ships under the weapons facility, and that there's one living alien engineer guy in cryostasis, and so they decide... We're going to go to, like, Wayland's like, I want to go down there and talk to him because I, for whatever reason, think that he has some means of saving my life. Even though all the aliens in this facility have been killed. If they are, like, super beings that can, like, grant immortality, they're pretty bad at it because they're all fucking dead, apparently from their own weapons. You're not entirely sure, like, how or why the outbreak happened and why all the people are dead there. It's just kind of... Yeah, that happened.
Yeah. No, and... yeah.
Yeah, and so then they go down, they revive the guy, and they're like,
wait.
What? Yeah.
They put Wayland in the walking thing that allows him to... And that just adds another unnecessary layer to what Guy Pearce is trying to do, and it looks terrible.
Yeah, he's got, like, this sort of, like, power leg thing.
It's it's awful, sorry.
Yeah,
and I still didn't believe, if he's minutes away from dying, that would be an unnecessary stressor to his body, and just, okay, go on.
That's so stupid to say that they revive the alien dude. The guy's like, tell him I want to live, and then...
David calls his mother a whore or something, and he...
Well, actually, I read an article
I know, he asked
to the guy where he basically, like, everyone was like, what did David say? And then it's like, no, David said exactly what Wayland asked him to say. That was a big fucking mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, that added a lot to the plot.
But I kind of... And I wish they hadn't
I never, like... That. And I never, like, really questioned that he said anything else, because it didn't...
No.
Because David apparently was working for Wayland the entire time.
I liked the possibility, though, that David could have been sabotaging them for whatever weird reason.
Yeah, but yeah, they kind of like that came out that it's like that's basically bullshit. But yeah, so that's what David says. It's like, hey, this old fuck wants you to make him immortal. A big albino like monstrosity dude who's apparently human. Is like, punch! It's like rips off fucking David's head, kills Wayland, like kills the other people there. Liz Shaw manages to run away, even though she has internal bleeding and her stomach was just cut open. And the dude is like a 7-foot-tall albino monstrosity.
And
like,
she manages to escape.
Yeah, she manages to run away and escape. And it's like, here it's just like, oh, fuck. It's like, it just turned into an action movie at the very end, where it's like, all the like build-up just like amounted to, I'm an evil alien who wants to kill you. And you don't even know, like, the dude's been in cryogenic freezing for 2,000 years. If he's, like... And they tried to, like, kind of, like, argue that it's, like... Or at least I got the sense the movie was trying to say, oh, like, this is weird. Here's evidence that this species wanted to kill humanity because this guy's trying to kill all these people here. It's like, this dude could be... You have no idea who this guy is. You have no idea what his role was in the Engineer Society. You have no idea, like, anything about the Engineers at all. You don't know anything about this guy. He could be insane. He could have been insane in the first place. He could have started the fucking outbreak. He could have, like... You don't know anything. It's like... And you don't know if he went insane after 2,000 years. You don't know if maybe punching someone and ripping their head off is, like, their way of saying hello. Maybe he was just trying to be friendly. You have no fucking clue because there's no insight whatsoever into the engineer culture, into who the engineers were. All you know is that they had crazy weapons, that people think that they started creating life in places when there's really no, other than the very opening scene, which has no context and is very ambiguous, you have no evidence for believing anything other than they fucked each other and had babies on Earth and then left. Like, that's the only evidence you really have. It's just like, you have no, there's no frame of reference. Like, everyone's tries to argue that the movie's really deep, that it's really intelligent, that it's saying a lot of really deep things, and that's what's good about its ambiguity. But the problem is, there's no frame of reference anywhere in the movie to explore further into the movie. You just have to pull shit out of your ass to try to, like, explain away inconsistencies, like continuity errors. You have like fucking big ass plot holes, and just like make huge glaring assumptions that have no evidence in the movie itself to try to explain the movie.
Again, I don't feel there's any point that I can point, like scene I can point to say there's the thematic payoff, there's the emotional payoff. And even in a movie as obtuse as 2001, I can point to Space Child.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's the culmination of the themes of the movie. Yeah, it's like it may take you a while to figure out exactly what the movie themes were and what the significance of it is, but it's like even if you don't understand or have a good grasp on what was going on in the movie, you still get the sense that it's like this is the culmination of something. This is a conclusion.
We talked about 2001. First time I saw it, I didn't, I'm not quite sure what all that means.
Yeah.
But I get to the Space Child, I'm like, oh, there we go. That's what the movie's about.
Yeah, it's about becoming the Space Child.
And Prometheus, ultimately, what it's saying is it's about punching.
Yeah, it's about punching and ripping people's heads off and going to alien planets and fucking everything up.
I found the last 20 minutes of all the action stuff very tedious because it's just, she's running away, they have to go into the alien thing, and he's eaten. But I don't have any investment in any of this. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. It hasn't been built up properly. It's not saying anything about the themes I was interested in at one point. I mean, you can agree there's themes that were interesting earlier on, right?
Yeah, it's like all the stuff where it like was setting up stuff was about like, okay, religion versus science. It's like, what does it mean to create something? It's like the best parts thematically with the movie but have no payoff and aren't built up enough, and should have been the whole movie, was the relationship between humanity and the androids they created, and then engineers and humanity that they created. And they fuck all that up.
And it's just action at the end.
Yeah.
And it's sort of interesting. It's not impossible to say things through action. Because Blade Runner ends with a big action fight, but you're gleaning a lot about the characters and their motivations and what this world means through that fight between Rutger Hauer and Harrison Ford.
Yeah, but it's like in this you have no reason. You don't know. One, you basically should at this point assume that all the characters are going to die anyways because they have no means. At this point, all you know is they have no means of getting off. Like eventually you find out, David can fly the ship somehow. It's like
without a fucking body.
Yeah, who knows how the fuck you can do that? But it's like you basically should assume all these characters are going to die regardless. Most of them are dead. Idris Elba and his crew sacrificed themselves because that's what they were supposed to do, and stop the ship. Again, even though there were more ships and the alien and the guy, instead of going like, oh fuck it, I mean I guess I'll just go grab another one. It's like that ship just crashed. It's like I'm going to go to try and track down that one woman I saw earlier and try and kill her. It's like. God, it's like there's no real big payoff at this point for any of the themes or any of the characters.
And I don't like how David is just a severed head for 20 minutes.
Yeah, and it's like, and he just kind of there's no sense of like because then David's all of a sudden he's on Liz Shaw's side. There's no real sense of like why he is like if he's learned something about like maybe it's okay to be human. There's like maybe it's okay to be a creation or like whatever. You don't know if he's had any sort of revelation other than. I kind of want to get the fuck off the planet and have a body again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they have the...
And you have no reason to believe that he's going to follow through on his promise.
Yeah.
I would if they were going to go to Earth, but she says she doesn't want to go back to Earth.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to go try to find the rest of the people that want to, as far as I'm aware, as far as I've been told, but have no reason to believe, want to eradicate the entire human race. I want to go talk to those guys. Yeah. It's like, that's a really good idea. Instead of going to Earth and being like... Yeah, about like 4.2 times 10 to the 27th kilometers that way.
Don't go there.
Don't fucking go there, and we should probably... Here's like a little like thing of black oil virus. Let's study this. I have no idea how the fuck it works. Like, it's completely inconsistent how it's operated so far. Oh, also, by the way, the geologist guy gets turned into a space zombie, and he gets killed and dropped. So it's like, we forgot to bring that up. That's another scene that's like, that happens... That's like throws another wrench because you don't have any idea why the fuck you turned into a space zombie. That's never happened in any of the other Alien movies, and throws another wrench in how the black oil virus works.
But let's go back to, okay, so all the things Liz Shaw needs to go back to Earth to warn humanity about.
Yeah.
Why doesn't she go say, we need to retrieve Voyager and get rid of that goddamn map we put on it like idiots because they could come here and kill us all. We need to defend ourselves. We need to create, extraterrestrial weapons. She has a duty to her species to go back. That frustrated me. It's like she has a responsibility as a scientist.
To go, but it's like, it's like, you remember the cave painting thing? Yeah, that was a bad idea. We should have gone there.
That was a bad use of $1 trillion.
Yeah, it's like, well, but it's just like, Wayland's dead. Oh, fuck, that reminds me of another thing. The only character thing that they tried to do with Charlize Theron is that they kind of hinted when she was talking with Wayland that the reason she went on the ship was because Wayland was going on the ship, and she didn't want to stay back on Earth because apparently Wayland would still have had control of the entire company while he was on the ship for a 4-year voyage, and she would just be on Earth doing nothing. It's like, and that it's kind of was saying that, her motivation was that she wanted to be the CEO of the company and take over the company, but she couldn't do that when Wayland was away. It's like,
why?
Who the fuck do you think is running the company right now? He's going through space for 4 fucking years, at least 2 years there and 2 years back, and God knows how long he's going to be there. He's probably going to die for all you know. The company's not just going to run itself. They have to get someone. If your bitch ass is going to be running the company when he dies, your bitch ass should be running the company right now. It's like, and what do you think you going with them is going to accomplish? All that's most likely going to happen is he's going to get fucking killed by a giant horseshoe ship, which is what fucking happened. It's like, just stay on Earth and just decide to run the company. You had even like the half-baked motivation they came up with out of nowhere makes no sense because it's like, dude, it's not like, fucking like Steve, or like fucking Bill Gates could just go, I decide I'm going to go fund a mission to Jupiter and leave. You don't do anything until I get back 5 years from now. It's like, leave the company exactly as it is. It's like, I'm sure everything will be fine. It's like, as soon as he leaves, it's like...
corporate takeover.
Yeah, it's like the board of trustees is like, well, what the fuck should we do now? It's like, it's not like Wayland is the only person who has a voice in what runs the company. Clearly, she's the, runner-up for who's going to be the next CEO and have the largest fucking stockhold. It's like, It's like, why the fuck would you go on the ship? It's like, that's another stupid thing that they did. It's like, Charlize Theron, they try to make her character kind of have a purpose, and then they just fucked it up.
Okay. We've talked through most of this. I think we've talked through the whole movie, right?
Well, okay, there's only the very, very, very end where the engineer gets attacked by Liz Shaw's baby, her beautiful baby, grows into a huge
alien.
Fucking giant, basically kind of like a face hugger thing, but not really. It's more like a squid face hugger. And it's like it ate him with his big vagina mouth, and then
it screams.
And then it impregnates him because it's kind of trying to set up Alien, and impregnates him, and then a little kind of alien pops out of him, even though it's not the same. It's not like the little tiny thing that pops out of his chest and grows into a big xenomorph alien, and it kind of looks different. So I don't know. Because you saw on the show, it's like, you don't know if this is the origin of the xenomorph aliens, and you don't, because there was the thing before where it kind of showed the xenomorph on the mosaic on the wall when they went in, so it seems like they've existed before, and you don't know if, this is the most specific fucking way to make a species ever, where you have to have a guy be infected, fuck Liz Shaw, she has to have a baby, and that baby has to eat the superhuman human person and have a baby. It's that is the craziest way to make an alien, xenomorph, that you could possibly come up with. And even then, I really don't this is one of my problems with the movie, as a whole, the very concept of the movie, and why I don't think the Alien needed an origin story like this, where the alien itself needed an origin story. It's if you wanted the story of how the ship got on the planet and had the alien canisters in it, it's that's an interesting story. The alien itself has never needed an origin story, and I've always, even though I know Ridley Scott has said that he had his own idea that the aliens were biological weapons and that that's what the ship was carrying. I've read those interviews with him. But I've always just liked the idea that the alien is just a highly evolved species of a parasitic organism that uses host organisms to reproduce, and that it's so high, it's very highly evolved and very resilient that it's able to survive in various ecosystems, because that's what they say in Alien. They examine the facehugger thing, and it's this thing is like, it has increasing, like, it like sheds its skin incredibly fast, and it's like this rock hard skin. It's like this thing is incredibly resilient. And I just like the idea that it's just a parasitic life form that can just survive in various conditions and go across space, basically by infecting other hosts. So it's like I never felt that there was any sort of ambiguity that there were even any implication that the alien was a biological weapon in the first movie. It was more just the alien infected the engineer space jockey guy, and then he died and crash landed on the planet, and then the alien had laid its eggs, and then it died because they had no food. It's like the alien itself never needed an origin story, and so it's like, and then they decide that no, it's created by this black oil virus that does all this different stuff, and then that somehow culminates in the xenomorph we all know and love from the Alien movies. It's like, and that's all really convoluted and didn't need to be there.
And that's why I don't need this to be an Alien prequel. That's my point.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I'm fine with it being in the Alien universe.
Yeah, that's whatever.
If it had, yeah, it's like, that's what it's like. It can be an Alien prequel in the sense that it takes place in the same universe, and it could have, because they had literally every single piece they needed to set up the beginning of Alien. But instead of doing that, they decided to set it on a different planet, and instead decided to make it an origin story for the alien, a prequel for the alien in that sense, which it didn't need to be at all.
All right. We have talked about Prometheus for 2 hours and 3 minutes.
Also, naming your movie off of like a Greek mythological figure does not make your movie intelligent. I'm tired of people saying it's like, but it has all these themes relating to Prometheus. It's like, that's great, having fucking...
I actually don't think it holds up to that, because if you look at the Legend of Prometheus and then they try to tie it in, it doesn't hold up.
It doesn't work that well. It's like...
The Prometheus myth is not about a bunch of fucking idiots who go do stupid shit and pay for it.
Yeah, it's not like... Yeah, there's not a bunch of, like, Greek dudes who go up to Mount Olympus and will, like, just start fucking around.
They'll start pissing on the mountain.
Yeah, it's like... That's not how... I don't remember that part of the myth. But yeah, it's like... But yeah, there's, like... And like,
it's like people who try to tell me the Hunger Games is deep because it's based on some sort of Athenian myth. No, it's fucking not, for one.
Even, it's like, that's one of the things is that people think, it's like, I love mythological stuff. I love, like, the Odyssey is one of my favorite things ever. I love all that stuff. I love Greek mythology. But making mythological allusions in your story does not make your story good. That doesn't... I mean, it can be interesting, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, but that's not a substitute for, like, an actual substantive narrative with, like, good ideas, well-drawn characters, and interesting questions. And you can't just throw in some ambiguous mythological illusion bullshit in there and expect it to be an intelligent movie that says a lot about something, because it doesn't.
Yeah. And, again, Sean and I do not hate this movie.
It seems like we probably should, but it does have enough good elements.
Yes.
I mean, even now, I still would recommend that you go see the movie.
Yes.
It's like...
And why we had to do this is I just think because of the differing reactions, I think it was good to lay on the line every problem, from big ones to nitpicks that you could have at it, just to show that it's not as concrete as some people want it to be.
And I'm not saying that if you really like the movie or if you found something thought-provoking in it for you, I'm not saying that you're stupid or you're wrong in doing that.
Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars. He thought it was wonderful. And, I don't disrespect his opinion for that.
It's like, I really don't... Yeah. I mean, I'll argue against you that there's, like, a lot of intellectual thought, and there's a lot of, like, anything really deep in the movie. It's like, I don't think... Every time, like, someone tries to do something where they ask the question, it's like, why are we here? What purpose do we have? It's like, and I always just, like... to me, it's a really stupid question to ask, but it's like... And that's just my own personal philosophical type stuff. It's like, if you like the movie and you found something thought-provoking in it, I'm not saying you're stupid or wrong for doing that, but I hope you would at least recognize, unlike most of the people that really love the movie, that there are deep flaws with the movie, and that...
And, I mean, can we stop comparing it to 2001?
It's not... I mean, it's not even... I mean... I really love 2001. That's obviously one of my favorite movies. I think it's a much, much, much better movie.
That's what I'm trying to say, yeah.
But it's like, even that, it's like they're not even the same type of movie. Like, people are trying to say they're the same kind of movie. Fucker, you point to another movie that's like 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it's like... And if you find one that's like 2001: A Space Odyssey, I would be amazed, because I've never seen... Prometheus is not like it at all.
No.
Prometheus is a sci-fi movie... And that's it. And it deals with some kind of evolution-y type stuff.
Yeah.
Those are the similarities to 2001.
But, okay.
Also, Hal.
Yeah. All right. So that's Prometheus. Any final words on the movie you want to say? I think we could not cover a movie more exhaustively. If you want to know, Sean and I we're just going to sit down to talk about Prometheus because we hadn't talked to each other about it yet, and we just hit record, and that's what you just heard. We were probably intending this to be 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But this movie opens a fucking rabbit hole.
I mean, seriously, you could almost... I mean, if we had done it a bit more orderly, you could probably make this a DVD commentary. And just watch it along with the movie.
So when the Blu-ray comes out, sit down with our audio podcast and just play it over and observe the beautiful imagery.
Yes. And remember, big things have small beginnings.